Hey, what's going on, everybody? How are you doing? Oh, you can't see me. Oh, I gotta drag this down. That's what I gotta do. Drag it down. I made a new scene, so bear with me. There we go. What's up, everybody? How are y'all doing? Yes, we have a launch starting stream a little bit earlier than normal. This is the Intuitive Machines' second mission. Intuitive Machines is doing 2 lunar missions in 2 years. So that's pretty exciting. So this is, again, contracted by NASA as part of the commercial lunar payload services contracts. And yeah, they're going to be sending a 2-ton lander to the moon. What's up, Star-Lord? How are you doing? Yeah, so we are just now 39 minutes from launch. We got John Insprucker in the house for SpaceX there on the left, giving us the rundown. Let's see where we are.
Ahead of the IM-1 mission last year, SpaceX teams had to modify Pad 39A and the transporter erector alongside the Falcon 9. We installed liquid oxygen and methane tanks.
We're talking about the pad infrastructure developments.
And we put more of these to support the Intuitive Machine missions. Now, Athena, today's lander, went through the same late load.
Hey, Luis, how are you?
While it was on the pad today. In fact, we have just finished wrapping up propellant loading.
Yeah, so like I said, this is the second mission of the Intuitive Machines landers. Thank you so much. This one is named Athena. If you guys remember, February of last year, almost exactly 1 year ago, Nova had their first mission attempt to land on the surface of the moon. It did, yes, I am on Twitch. It did technically land softly. It survived the landing, but it landed with a horizontal velocity component. And so it landed and then tipped over and landed on a rock. So it kind of like landed like this, tipped over. It did, if I recall correctly, survive several days until lunar night hit, which was one of the objectives that that Intuitive Machines wanted to see. But yeah, they couldn't really communicate with it very well for a while, and I don't think they could deploy some of the any of the payloads, unfortunately. So it was a success in terms of them being able to survive a lunar landing, but this is their round 2, taking commercial payloads as well.
The Trident drill, which you see right here, and a mass spectrometer called IM-Solo, which you see right here.
So yeah, they're talking about some of the payloads that are going to be launched on this mission. What's up, Buzzcat? How are you?
Is Dr. Jackie Quinn, Prime 1 project manager with NASA.
IM-2 main objective is to find water or ice crystals on the moon.
This instrument right here, the Trident drill. Can you walk us through how this works?
So actually, this is a life-size rendition of the Trident drill. So that's the
That's that audio, by the way, chat.
Send to the lunar South Pole. Yeah, it's actually was designed and built by Honeybee. It's a augering drill, and it has the ability to sample down to 1 meter depth, so that's a little over 3 feet. And the way it works is it goes down in about 4-inch sections. It'll go down.
Hey, Star-Lord, there you are. What's up, man? How are you? Gonna be lurking? Fair enough, lurk away.
Flutes of the drill. It'll bring it to the surface, deposit on the surface, and then it goes down again another 4 inches and deposits. So do that sequentially until it reaches its terminal depth.
Hear that call out in the background? They were going for propellant load.
It has a temperature sensor in the very tip of the drill. So as we're going down, we're going to stop.
Yeah, I'll be around for Starship. That is right.
At different depths.
Yeah, we do
so we'll get
launch coverage when I can, when it's late enough in the day where I'm not working.
One first, and of course, it's the first robotic drill in the lunar South Pole. So very cool.
That's a couple calls from SpaceX here on the countdown.
We are proceeding launch abort. They did not like something that they just heard.
Criteria for the remainder of the count. And Jackie, paired with Trident is the mass spectrometer.
All right, well, there you go, chat. The launch was called for an abort scenario for safety of the vehicle. Not sure if we got any other info on that.
This is IM-Solo. So
let's see what they had there.
Mass spectrometer built by so we'll get the first thermal in situ readings as we traverse down. That'll be one first, and of course it's the first robotically
non-urgent no-go conditions.
So very cool. That's
a couple calls from SpaceX here on the countdown.
Oh no, okay, never mind. So sorry, chat. I misheard that. We're good. Everything is good. They were just saying they were running through the go no go poll. My bad. Totally misheard that. I thought that they were calling for an abort.
Specific gases we're seeing,
but they were calling if there is an abort. call
And so,
hold.
Jackie, real quick, can you give us the big picture?
So I think we're good.
What
I think we're good for now.
Prime 1, what does the Prime
Countdown's
1
still going.
suite contribute to the overall goal of long-term human presence at the moon?
Yeah,
No, it did not
right
launch
now,
already.
I
Nope,
would
you're
say
good.
We're fairly tethered to Earth as human explorers, and we want to be able to have a sustained
Yeah, so it's kind of,
presence
now that they're talking some of the higher objectives of NASA, let's definitely get into what is going on today for the launch. So this launch is known as IM-2. Got that posture check. We're sitting pretty good right now. This is Intuitive Machines' second launch. They are launching their Nova C lander, also known as Athena. This mission is actually going to be launched on the booster 1083.9. This will be the 9th mission for this particular booster, which is pretty crazy. If I recall correctly, I think the history of this booster, it launched Crew 8 for sending astronauts up to the International Space Station. It launched Polaris Dawn, which sent astronauts into orbit from the private sector. It also did a crew resupply mission, if I'm not mistaken, and then it also has done several Starlink missions. So this is going to be the 9th mission overall for this particular booster, which is pretty crazy. Overall, this is going to be launching from LC, Launch Complex 39A, out of Cape Canaveral. And it should be basically going on a trajectory due east. So one of the things that you're seeing on the screen is one of the payloads that the Intuitive Machines lander is going to be carrying. It is a phased array reflector. I think the first Intuitive Machines mission, IM-1, carried something similar, but unfortunately they couldn't use it because it tipped over. And so they are now sending a second one. The second phased array reflector is designed, if I recall correctly, to for Earth observations. So like sending a laser from Earth to the moon to get accurate positioning and things like that of the moon over time. This mission should be able to land on the moon, I think, within 4 days of launch, if I'm not mistaken. So it's actually pretty fast, much faster than what Blue Ghost, that was launched by Firefly Alpha, is able to do, which is pretty cool. And it's going to be landing on Mons Mountain in the lunar South Pole. So all of this, again, is coming from the commercial lunar payload services contracts that NASA awarded Intuitive Machines many years ago now, which is pretty awesome. But let's also make sure that we're clear that this is, in fact, chat, a rideshare mission. There are a total of at least 4 vehicles launching on this particular mission, not all of them going to the moon either. They're all going into, I believe, a lunar transfer insertion orbit, or basically a lunar transfer, but not all are going to actually go into lunar orbit. So we have NASA's Lunar Trailblazer mission, which is going to be going into a very low lunar orbit, like 100 kilometers altitude, if I'm not mistaken. And it's going to be from orbit using its instruments to try and find ice crystals on the surface of the moon, which is pretty cool. So remember, all of these commercial lunar payload services contracts that that Intuitive Machines is doing. We also have the Lunar Trailblazer mission that is NASA, I believe it's JPL contracted. All of this is in support of Artemis to try and find potential landing zones for future base and outpost long-term sustainability, right? Because you have to find water on the moon, you have to be able to mine the moon, whether that's going to be for actual consumables for astronauts or for potentially in situ resource utilization for developing propellants to use on the surface as well. But yeah, so the other ones are Astroforge, is a commercial company looking to do asteroid mining. So they're sending what they call Odin. Odin is going to actually go to an asteroid from this mission. I think it'll arrive at an asteroid in about 11 months and test a whole bunch of stuff for them, which is pretty cool. And then we also have the Epic Aerospace, another commercial launch company doing basically jetpacks for satellites, if you will. They're sending one of their satellites into geostationary orbit called Chimera Geo 1. So it's pretty cool. Like I said, at least 4 vehicles on this one particular mission going into a lunar transfer orbit, which is pretty awesome. So kind of getting into what IM-2's mission is actually all about. Like I said, their primary objective is, of course, trying to detect and find ice on the surface of the moon, or just below the surface of the moon, and using that potentially to test some in situ resource utilization technologies, which is actually pretty awesome as well. For the overall science that they have on board, they have the NASA Prime 1, or the Polar Resources Ice Mining Experiment. NASA, they absolutely love their acronyms. So yes, they have their NASA Prime 1, their Polar Resources Ice Mining Experiment. This is essentially a payload that we actually saw them talking about it earlier. It's a big drill that is just designed to drill, I think, 1 meter deep underneath the lunar regolith. And then they also have a mass spectrometer to basically, once they pull out some of that deeper regolith, analyzing it for ice materials, which is pretty cool. There's also 2 rovers on this mission, which is also really crazy. The first is known as the MAP rover. This is actually, I believe, developed by Lunar Outpost, another commercial company, and they're testing Nokia. Yes, the phone company. They're testing Nokia's 4G LTE communication system for future potential usage on lunar missions in the future, for like long distance, high, fairly high data rate communications on the moon. That's pretty cool. Did we miss the space launch? No, it's right there. Space launch in 28 minutes. You got time. But yeah, so that's actually pretty awesome. In fact, I think we can go ahead and get rid of that. There we go, because we have the countdown actually on the page here. The other lunar rover, I think, is called Grace. No, actually, Grace is a micro hopper that I believe will be the first of its kind ever launched and actually operated on the surface of the moon. Hopper is quite literally exactly what it sounds like. They're going to use something like compressed air or some other like catalyst of some sort that is going to provide it a little bit of propulsion. And it's literally going to be able to hop around different places on the lunar surface around the landing zone in order to basically not only test that technology, but I think they have I believe they have a payload from DLR for measuring temperature variations along different areas around the landing site, as well as I think what they call a water snooper, which is essentially, again, another instrument for detecting water ice crystals and radiation and all of that sort of stuff on the lunar surface. So they're trying to use the hopper here, and I'll show a picture here in a second. It's really cool. They're trying to show, oh, there it is right there. There's Hopper. Yeah, right there on screen. That's Hopper. Literally designed to kind of almost do what the Ingenuity helicopter did, but, scout areas beyond just the landing zone and be able to scout areas that the rovers might not necessarily be able to get into. What's up, Supersonic? How are you? If you've got some time to fill, I'd love to hear like a roundup of the companies and launch systems that are either currently active or in the works. Burninator, ooh, like just on this mission alone, or like the entire aerospace industry? Because my God, I don't even know all of the aerospace. I would need to compile a list myself, because there's a lot of them. I mean, they're talking about by 2030, I believe, that the aerospace industry is going to be $1 trillion industry. Right now, if I recall correctly, it's like 380 billion. So it's going to triple in the next like 5 years, the way things are going. So yeah, there's a lot of companies. But if you're just talking about this mission, yeah, I can definitely run through that. Good to see we're finally starting to see some moon rovers. Yeah, no kidding. I'm really, really happy about that. Because don't forget, Astrobotics is also supposed to do a rover mission. It was called, I believe, Viper, right? It wasn't Astrobotics supposed to do Viper. Viper is still very much in the toss-up, like shrug. I don't know what's going to happen to it. If you guys remember, Viper was a $400 million rover NASA was developing, and NASA basically came back and said, yeah, we're not going to be able to do it without like putting in another 100 million. So we're just going to cut the whole program, even though like the entire system was already made. Yeah, go figure. But yeah, there's also, that's the other one, by the way, chat. So there's the second rover. There are 2 rovers on the mission. The first one is the MAP rover, like I said, developed by Lunar Outpost. That is testing 4G on the moon from Nokia Bell Labs, which is pretty cool. I believe that rover also has like a high resolution camera and other things like that. I think those are actually developed by MIT, the camera and like a swarm bot that they're going to be testing on the moon. The other one is actually coming from Dymon, DYMON company. It's a Japanese company. And it's also a very small rover, basically designed to go like within 100 meters of the landing zone with its own instruments, and it's going to be a commercially developed and commercially operated rover there as well, which is pretty cool. What do you talk about new aerospace companies? I just got hired at a very small rocket startup. Hell yeah, rocket science. Awesome. Good on you, man. Congrats. It's only rocket science, right? So that's really cool. In Colorado by chance, because I know of a few small startup companies working on rockets here in Colorado, but you know, wherever you may be. Mainly launch systems. Oh man, with launch systems, it's definitely a lot. You know, you of course have the big ones, SpaceX, ULA. You have Rocket Labs, those are kind of seen as the major primes. You of course now have Blue Origin working on New Glenn. You have Dawn Aerospace working on a reusable space plane concept, and they actually have a subscale demonstrator that they've already flown. Dawn Aerospace is really cool. You have Relativity. You have ABL Space Systems. You have Daytona. Wait, no, it's not actually Daytona. What is it called? I think Daytona is the name of their rocket, right? Let me look at this up real quick. Daytona rocket. Daytona 2. Phantom Space is one. Golly, there's so many. You still have Astra Aerospace in the picture. ESAR Aerospace. Oh goodness. There's a lot. There's iSpace as well. And those are just the ones I can think of immediately on the top of my head. I'm sure there's like a 50 billion more that I could, if I thought about it some. But yeah, there's a lot. Kent, Washington. Awesome. Very good. Very good. But yeah, so kind of, there's definitely a lot. Mainly in launch systems, there's still a lot. Although I will have to say for the launch industry, it's been pretty prevalent, right? That the launch bubble, so to speak, is starting to pop. You know, we've already seen certain launch providers go away. For example, Virgin Orbit. Relativity has had some problems as well. Oh, Firefly, right? Firefly Aerospace is another one. Yeah, they're I'm not saying Firefly is kaput. I mean, Firefly is very much... Firefly just launched their own moon lander on their last mission. So, yeah, pretty... It's actually designed... It's actually going to be landing here in like 4 days, I think. Actually, I think Blue Ghost will be landing almost at the same time as the Intuitive Machines lander that we're going to be seeing here launch in the next 22 minutes. But yeah, so Firefly is alive and well. There's definitely a lot. They released a very good footage this morning. Yes, I retweeted it. Yeah, or well, retweeted it, reposted it on X. Absolutely. Wonder how the Hill sphere is actually calculated. Yep. I would like to know that as well. Where does modularity fit in? So right now we're working mainly on the communication side of satellites. We still have big plans to go into space, but being a small startup, you have to start somewhere and make money before you can then scale into a full-fledged space system. So that's where we are. We're probably, you know, depending on how things go in the next several months, still probably a year out before we're hitting space, but we'll see. We'll see. But anyways, so yes, I think that was everything for the lunar rovers and mobility systems I was talking about. So we have the MAP rover, we have the Yoki rover, that's the Japanese rover, and then we have Grace, the Hopper system, which is actually really cool. And there's the landing site that you're seeing on screen now. They're going to Mons Mooten. Is that pronounced Mooten or Mountain or Moten? Don't remember. It's named after Melba last name here. I'm horrible with names, Chad. I apologize, but yes, so that's where they're going. A different landing location than what IM-1 was supposed to land at. Remember, all of these CLPS, Commercial Lunar Payload Services contracts, are for Artemis support missions in order to... there you go. There's IM-1 and there's IM-2, this mission's landing location. So, you know, within the same area of the southern pole of the moon, but very much, you know, still pretty far distance away. Because they're basically scouting out potentially potential areas for future base development, right? Because we want to have a sustainable presence on the moon in the future. And to do that, you have to find water, and you have to be able to mine water and, ice crystals, whatever have you, so that way you can decompose that into usable substances for long duration missions. But yeah, we got to find all that stuff around the moon and try and find, a high concentration of it, so to speak. You have to make money to make money. That's right. That's exactly right. But anyways, there's also, like I said earlier, there's a NASA laser retroreflector array on this mission. You saw that at the very top of the vehicle earlier. Again, that's basically designed to help measure the exact lander position with respect to the moon and Earth distance, which is pretty cool. And then there's also something known as the Lone Star Data Holdings Freedom Payload. It's a prototype lunar data center for cislunar cloud storage. Yeah, I don't exactly know where that fits into the larger scheme of commercial services in the aerospace industry, but we all know that they have been talking about a long time of putting data centers in space. So apparently they're looking to put data centers on the moon too, which is, probably a very good long-term vision as we try to set up permanent residence there. But have you seen the Astroforge live stream? 2 guys on a couch watching their payload launch. That's awesome. No, I have not. That's awesome. I think I've met some of the Astroforge folks here at an event in Colorado before. They're pretty cool. I think it was just as they were getting, I think it was just after they raised their last round of funding, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, they're pretty cool guys. Yeah, so that is the primary payloads on the Nova C Athena lander, right? That is just one vehicle out of 4 that's going to be launching either into deep space or to the moon on this here mission. The other secondary Falcon 9 payloads, we have the NASA Lunar Trailblazer Orbiter. Its goal is to map the lunar surface water deposits from, I think, 100-kilometer polar orbit around the moon, which is a pretty low orbit around the moon. It has an infrared spectrometer from JPL, and it also has a multispectral imager from I believe the European Space Agency, which is pretty cool. So its overall mission is designed for 2 years. I forgot to mention that IM-2 Nova is only designed to last however long it takes to get to the moon, and then 7 days on the surface of the moon. Basically, until lunar night hits. Nova C's mission will come to an end. It is not designed, as far as I'm aware, specifically to survive the lunar night. But anyways, so that's what we got there. The Astroforge Odin is an asteroid mining scout. So this particular mission that will be launching payloads to the moon is also sending a deep space mission to an asteroid, and it should fly by an asteroid in about 11 months. So that's pretty cool. They want to basically detect platinum groups in an asteroid and basically scout out a potential mission for future mining as well. So yeah, this is a fully commercial developed and operated mission, Astroforge being the commercial company, sending quite literally a space vehicle to scout out a asteroid for mining, which is pretty awesome. I believe the last payload is known as the Chimera Geo-1. This is by Epic Aerospace, which Epic Aerospace is actually pretty cool. They want to design, for lack of a better word, jetpacks for satellites. Essentially modular propulsion modules that can be used for last mile delivery service. Think Impulse Space if you're familiar with them. Basically just a big propulsion module that's designed to ferry one or more other satellites to a different destination. So I believe they're going to use their what's known as an orbital transfer vehicle, OTV, to basically move a 16U CubeSat into geosynchronous orbit from the lunar transfer orbit, which is pretty cool. But yeah, so that's pretty much what we got to go. We have 15 minutes left in the countdown here. But if you guys want to see some of the things that we have here, so if you haven't seen this, there we go. So this is a picture of the overall stack of payloads that is in the fairing of the Falcon 9. So here you can see the pretty large Nova C lander. This thing is like 4.5 meters tall. Multiply that by roughly 3, that gets it to you in feet. It's actually, it's pretty large. It's more than a story tall, which is pretty awesome. It's like 2,000 kilograms fully loaded with propellant. All of that, of course, to get it to the moon after translunar injection burn, and then, of course, landing on the moon takes a good amount of delta V. We also have here, right there, chat, this big honkin' spacecraft is the OTV, or Orbital Transfer Vehicle, and this is the Chimera GEO-1 payload by Epic Aerospace. Like I said, it's basically just a big propulsion module. You can see the tanks on the side here, and then it has a single engine on the bottom that's gimbalable, and it's quite literally designed just to ferry this 16U that's right here to its final destination, which I believe this one is going into geostationary orbit. Over here to the side, you have Astroforge's mission. Again, this is the one that's going to the asteroid to scout it out for future mining and to be able to detect all sorts of different platinum groups that might be in an asteroid. And so that's pretty cool. And I think that is all that we potentially see here. I'm looking for the Trailblazer. That might be it in the background, but that actually looks more like it's part of Nova C lander. But I don't see the actual, not even behind that. It must be on the far side from here. The Lunar Trailblazer mission that is contracted out by NASA. But yeah, so this is pretty cool. Here you can see so this is actually, if I recall correctly, one of the rovers that will be lowered to the surface, just kind of tucked away in that big housing there. Here you can see the drill that they showed earlier. This thing deploys and basically drills 1 meter, 3 feet into the ground, and then has a spectrometer to basically then look at how deep it goes and what sort of minerals and materials, and ideally ice and water, are below the surface. So that's pretty cool. And then we can't see it in this picture, but behind on the very top here is Grace, the hopper. I think we can see it better in, oh, yep, see, there's the rover. There's the rover right there. This is also, look at this, Columbia, the jacket and, like insulation and like clothing, apparel company actually has technology on here that they've partnered with Intuitive Machines for, which is pretty awesome if you ask me. They basically have insulation and some active cooling or not cooling, but thermal management systems on board, which is actually pretty awesome. Let's see, what else do we have here? Oh yes, one of the cool things is that like the first one, Intuitive Machines has put some pretty interesting and cool plates on the bottom of their foots. Their lander's feet, which is pretty cool. So if you remember, they had, I believe, some kind of quote on the first one. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but here you can see, they have the mission patches. They have Houston, Texas being called here, which is pretty cool. So yeah, kind of like a nifty little Easter egg that ideally will never be seen again, chat. Ideally, right? Because if they actually land correctly this time, you won't see these, and that's going to be actually a good thing. So these are, from what I remember, all of the deployables that this mission is going to have. This is a really cool graphic from Intuitive Machines, if I recall correctly. There's Grace, the hopper, launched off of the top of the Nova C lander. You can see the drill experiment here. They have the Nokia 4G LTE communication system. Here's what the MAP rover looks like. And look at this tiny little Yaoki rover that's also going to be deployed to the surface. So yes, lots of stuff here. Really, hopefully some good science. Testing a lot of really cool, innovative concepts as well. Like 4G communications could be really huge. The hopper has been a technology that I've known about for like probably 12 years now, and we're finally seeing one of those actually go to the moon. So that's pretty cool. In fact, I think NASA uses like hopper missions as potential student-led organizations, which is pretty cool. So we're still 10 minutes out. I just wanted to check on that here. as we go through the pictures. But yeah, like I said, definitely really cool to see all of these missions and payloads coming to life. What else we got here, chat? What else we got here? So that's the concept. There's Grace on the top. So this is what it's supposed to look like once it's deployed. You can see the rover being deployed at the bottom here. So we actually saw it in its bucket integrated to the very top, right? There you can see the deployed drill. Of course, this is just a artist rendering of all of this. You have the solar array here. But yeah, Grace, the little hopper, is going to deploy from the top mounted side, if I'm not mistaken. And that should be what uses little jets to move around the surface of the moon, which is going to be pretty awesome to see how that goes. Oh, there it is right there. There's Grace. So you can see the little pads it has for feet. Almost reminds me of like the Ingenuity helicopter landing pads. But yeah, then it has very, very tiny thrusters that it's designed to help it move around the surface of the moon. But yeah, we're getting pretty close here before we're going to be just handing it off to SpaceX to see how this goes. We are now 10 minutes away from launch. Here's the map rover, as Lunar Outpost was putting it into the thermal vacuum chamber for testing and bake out. Basically making sure that all of the materials and equipment are going to be good to go for launch, that it can withstand the thermal cycles, all of that jazz during testing here. This is what the, this is fairly small. If I remember correctly, this is like a 16U CubeSat again. This is the NASA Trailblazer satellite that will be launching into a very low 100-kilometer altitude polar orbit using its onboard sensors to basically try and find deposits of ice crystals and water on the moon. So not bad. This picture here is essentially what the Epic Aerospace's Chimera vehicle is going to look like. So it's what we saw the very, very top of with that 16U CubeSat on board. But like I said, it's just a squat little, propellant tank system with a big engine at the bottom. But that's really all it is, designed to ferry different payloads to different locations once separated from the launch vehicle. Here's a nice, good close-up of that asteroid scouting vehicle for Astroforge. And there we go. And that was all of the pictures. This is what we're going to look to launch here. So without any further ado, let's see what we can look at here. So I'm going to turn it back over to SpaceX now that we've kind of run through the entire mission. Hope you guys enjoyed that run through, and we are 7 minutes away.
Tonight is also the third Clps delivery that is launched on a SpaceX rocket.
So what they're saying, Clps, CLPS, Commercial Lunar Payload Services Contracts. It's a NASA contract for commercial landers.
We will see you after launch.
All right, 7 minutes out. We should hear closeout very soon.
At the top of the program, Falcon 9 is enabling these launches of the moon, including the Hakuto R mission, IM-1 a year ago, Blue Ghost, and Resilience, and of course tonight's IM-2 mission. Now,
what is engine chill? Oh, hey, look, Blue Ghost. We were just talking about that. I'm going to fast forward real quick while I'm thinking about it.
But those ride shares will be helping to build the lunar
just to make sure we are, in fact, live.
All these missions are something that Yomane's going to talk about.
Yeah. Thanks, John.
And on the Twitch side chat, I'm going to run a very short ad break here while we're just about to launch. So that way no ads get injected into the stream while launch is actually occurring. So I'll see you guys on the Twitch side back in just a few minutes. All right. Got that going, making sure we're doing some... Yep, there's a Trailblazer satellite. All right. So Luis, you asked what engine chill means exactly. So engine chill... quite literally refers to using some of the cryogenic propellants on board the Falcon 9 in this case. They're using liquid oxygen, and they're starting to basically push some of that liquid oxygen into the combustion chamber of the Falcon 9 Merlin 1 rocket engines. Why do you do this? You do this in order to start cooling the engine down and also making sure that your propellant feed lines don't have any basically empty space where air pockets can form. Because as you can imagine, the Merlin 1D rocket engine that SpaceX uses is regeneratively cooled, meaning that it uses some of its RP-1 propellants going through cooling channels around the outside of the rocket nozzle, and it helps basically take away some of the heat so that way the engine doesn't melt, right? Well, not only do you want to make sure that all of those propellant lines with fuel are, basically filled and not going to have any gas pockets in them, but you want to do the same for the liquid oxygen as well. And you want to quite literally cool down the chamber so that way as you're going to ignite your rocket engine and you're going to be funneling all of that LOX into the chamber anyways, that you're not going to have any sort of bad problems happening by having a very sudden change in temperature and any air pockets in your system. Because if you have air pockets, that basically changes how that one point is able to transfer heat away from the rocket nozzle into your cooling system, right? And so you can quite literally get hot spots in the nozzle and it can melt. So yeah, quite literally engine chill means flowing propellants into the rocket in order to make sure that all the propellant lines are basically full. There's no air pockets in there, and to make sure that the engines quite literally are chilled down to operating temperature. Oh no, coming in with a Twitch Prime subscription. Despite space being a vacuum, Mars is really dusty. Yep, that is true. That's a good one, oh no. That's a good one. Yes, very dusty.
See it now. Takes about 16 seconds to retract.
Yep, there we go. So they're in strong back retract.
Begin to recline the strong back away from.
So first these clamps at the very top open, and then we'll start to see this transporter rector, the strong back, start to just very slowly tilt away into kind of a staged position. We should hear closeout very soon as well for the propellant closeout.
We do not launch today. We do have a backup opportunity tomorrow at 7:11 p.m. Eastern Time.
There it goes. Strong back is starting to retract.
Stages are nearly fully loaded with 1 million pounds of kerosene fuel and liquid oxygen. Falcon 9 uses two propellants. One's a refined form of kerosene called RP1 or Rocket Propellant 1. And we also use LOX or liquid oxygen as our oxidizer.
Nice.
Now, fire generally needs three elements to ignite: heat, fuel, and an oxidizing agent, in this case oxygen. That's the fire triangle. In our case, the liquid oxygen is chilled well below its boiling point. That makes it denser, and that means basically we can load more of it into the rocket.
Yep, and the third part of that fire triangle is a chemical known as T-Tab, or triethyl aluminum and triethyl borane, which we use as an ignition.
Stage 1 LOX load complete.
There's that call out for stage 1 LOX load complete. And the combustion of RP1 and LOX.
Haven't heard John Sweet Nectar voice in a while. Yeah, John Innsbrucker is definitely the OG when it comes to SpaceX launch commentary.
LOX loading on the second stage in about 30 seconds. We'll have another major event at T-minus 60 seconds, and that's Falcon 9 computers going in startup.
Yeah, so what John just mentioned here is we should see a closeout of the LOX propellant lines. What you should notice here is essentially the valves on the side of the rocket will shut and the transporter erector will put through a huge purge. So basically there's a big line of liquid oxygen that goes into the rocket tanks, especially the second stage. All of that LOX needs to be purged because there's about to be a big hot thing right here. And you don't want some very, very hot exhaust to basically heat up your pipes that have cryogenic propellant in there, because then they'll flash to gas and you'll cause an explosion. There's the closeout right there. So they are opening that purge valve and they're basically dumping all of that liquid oxygen that was otherwise in the lines here in the transporter rector and trying to evacuate all of that before launch.
Ground gas closeout.
We have ground class closeout.
Inside the Falcon 9, we're draining any propellant from the ground lines. We're venting gas overboard. That'll also create what's typically a large white plume that comes off of the strong back.
So that's what we just said.
Gaseous oxygen
all right, at T in about 8 seconds, we'll have auto sequence start. This is where the computer, the flight controller on the vehicle, is going to basically be fully automated from here. It's going to have control of what happens from here on until launch.
You see and hear it. We're in startup. Everything looks good. We're going to get the LD go for launch. And with that, let's
all right, chat.
Listen to that go.
Let's see if we're going to the moon again. Now, this is going to be the second Intuitive Machines moon mission in 2 years.
Right on time. Always love to hear that call out.
Go for launch.
T-minus 30 seconds and counting. All systems are go for launch.
All right, chat, here we go.
Falcon 9 with the Intuitive Machines lunar payload.
15 seconds. So watch for the pad deluge system, water, to start flooding the pad. And then right down here, you'll see a green flash. That's the actual igniter fluids running.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Green flash, ignition,
And liftoff. Go.
and we're away for the second lunar mission in 2 years. That's awesome. We are go for launch. All systems are looking good. Vehicles pitching. Oh, that's looking good. Super clean. And it just sounds right.
Falcon 9 carrying IM-2's lunar lander Athena has successfully lifted off at pad 39A. We're heading to the moon. We heard the call out of the pitch cap. That's a small tilt of the vehicle. We're still going pretty much straight up, but now we're also slowly heading horizontal.
You heard that call out for power and telemetry nominal, and once we reach orbital altitude, we're going pretty much horizontal to the Earth. The rocket needs to go about 17,000 miles per hour.
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
Horizontally.
Supersonic.
Call out. We are supersonic.
We'll have
and
max Q,
just a few
maximum
moments,
dynamic
we will
pressure.
Pass through max Q, or maximum aerodynamic pressure, on the booster.
Is there going to be a Leo
Max
phase?
Q.
I'm not sure, actually. It's a good question. I'm not sure exactly their trajectory.
And the Merlin 1D engines have throttled back up to full
Probably,
power.
if I had to guess,
Next
Lillian.
call out we ought to hear is MVAC chill.
MVAC chill, so they're going to do the same thing, a chill down on the second stage engine, just like they did on the
Falcon 9
first stage
data is
engines.
continuing to look good as the first stage heads out over the Atlantic Ocean.
That's looking good, and we're now starting to get under expanded plume as the plume starts to expand beyond the nozzle.
Trajectory looking good on Falcon 9.
Nice. This is heading like due east, if I'm not
We're
mistaken.
going to have a few events coming up in quick succession. We're going to start with MECO, main engine cutoff. That's the point during the flight where we shut down the 9 Merlin 1D engines on the first stage. Then we'll go into stage
40 kilometers
separation,
altitude.
and then SES-1, which is the second stage engine start number 1.
And shortly after MECO, stage 1 and 2 will separate from each other, with the first stage booster beginning its trip back down
So
to
another
Earth, while
10
the
seconds,
second
and we should
stage
have MECO.
engine starts for the first
Oh,
time.
look at
known
that,
as
chat. That looks
SES-1,
amazing.
where the single Merlin
Is this a
vacuum
twilight
engine on
hour?
board
I
the
think it
second
might be,
stage will
right?
light up. This is happening in just a few seconds.
MECO.
There's MECO. Should have second stage separation.
Separation confirmed.
Startup. Oh, look at that. What a great shot. Same green flash on startup.
MVAC.
Nice. MVAC ignition nozzle
Callouts
is
of 3 good
red hot,
events.
chat.
You heard it, and you should have seen it there on the webcast.
It's straight to the east. Yeah, I figured.
MECO stage 7, SES-1. Now, the first stage is not powered. It's shut down. Great views coming from the second stage cameras. As
Oh,
we
look at
just,
that.
had
That's the first
sunset
stage camera
a
there.
while ago at Kennedy Space Center. The first stage is now coasting to apogee. That's the
Nice.
view on the left side. We're slowly turning using cold gas thrusters. We're turning to orient the engines into the direction of flight.
Wow, they got
Also,
the
you may have
tracking
been able
camera
to
on the
make
second
out
stage.
in
Look at
a little
that.
bit of the light, the
Fairing
titanium
fairing
grid
pop.
fin deployment is underway. We're using pneumatic gas
Separation
pressure.
confirmed.
Yes.
And here comes fairing
Beautiful.
separation.
So that's Astroforge right there.
And a beautiful view.
What a great shot
Looking
that
at
was.
Athena
That was so
and the right
good.
chairs on top of the
Wow.
second stage stack. So we had good fairing
Vehicles are on a
separation.
nominal trajectory.
Trajectory's nominal.
Nice.
First stage is looking good as it coasts to apogee. Second stage under power.
Yeah, it is.
Mate,
Correct,
everything
Lillian.
continuing to look good right now on the mission.
Yeah, we are at just over T plus 4 minutes into today's mission. IM-2 is SpaceX's 24th launch this year, and
Oh,
we are
little bit of,
currently in the
solid
first of
oxygen.
2
If you guys saw that
planned
little
impact
tuft.
burns. Around the T plus 6 minute mark, you should see on your screen the first stage's entry burn. It's currently making its way back down to Earth. And for that
Clearly
entry
saw
burn,
fairings
we will
up.
relight
Hell
3 of the
yeah,
M1
Panta, nice.
engines on the first stage, starting with the center engine, followed shortly by the engines next to it, which will
Yeah,
slow
that's cool
down
because this is the
vehicle as
twilight
it
hour,
passes
right?
back
For
into the
Florida.
Earth's atmosphere.
So
Now we need to slow
Florida's
down the
ground
first
level,
stage
right, is in darkness, but as the vehicle rises, it gets into sunlight again, and so it can be really, really bright.
screen to the telemetry on the bottom left and right of your screen for
Yeah,
your
that's
stage
cool.
1
Yeah,
and
nice.
stage 2 speeds and altitudes.
Now you may have noticed on the left side of your screen, first stage altitude has begun dropping. We
First stage is
reached
already past
apogee.
apoapsis,
Now we
the
are
highest
under full
point in
gravity,
its
headed back down to the
suborbital
Atlantic
trajectory.
Ocean. Now to slow us down, we'll use that entry burn. And that means we're firing 3 Merlin engines to decelerate the Falcon 9. But we'll
Stand
still
by
be
for
moving
entry.
very rapidly. And that's going to cause the vehicle to fly through the Merlin exhaust gases. It's also known as the rocket's plume. And this will deposit a layer of soot on the vehicle surface, one of the signatures of a flown booster. Now,
This
that
is
soot
the
comes
9th
from the
flight of
carbon-based
this booster,
fuel
by the way.
Falcon 9 uses. Now,
The
it took
9th
us almost
flight.
2 minutes since
crazy.
separation to get up to apogee. It's going to take the rocket just as long to bring the first stage back down to the edge of the atmosphere for the entry
better.
burn coming
He's gotta
up
say it, right?
in just about
He's gotta say the thing.
20 seconds or so.
Yeah, so this entry burn should take us from around 8 kilometers down
As
to,
a
I think,
reminder,
around
the
5,700
first
kilometers
stage
an
that's
hour.
supporting today's mission is performing its entry burn for the 9th time. Falcon 9 is the world's first orbital reusable rocket. This is important because it's that reusability that allows SpaceX to
It's still
refly
the
the most
only.
expensive parts of the rocket, and
It's
that
still
in
the
turn
only
drives down
reusable
the
rocket.
cost of space access.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
There's supersonic retropropulsion. There's single engine burn into 3 engine burn.
Startup, and this will be about a 30-second burn.
Should shut down to where we're
Slowing
around
that first stage down
5,700
as it
kilometers an hour,
re-enters
if
the
I'm
Earth's
not
atmosphere.
mistaken. I could be mistaken. She said a 30-second burn, so that's actually a pretty long duration entry burn here. Yeah, oh wow, that is a big entry burn, chat.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
It's because it's carrying such a light payload here.
You can see the end of that entry burn on
It
the
went
first
really long.
stage. And on your right, you can see the second stage still in it, the first of 2 planned burns carrying
Nice.
the Intuitive Machines 2 payload.
If your
to
KSP launches
the
were as
moon.
good, yeah, I know. I
Now, coming up
understand the
next, we will
sentiment.
shut down our MVAC engine on the second stage.
It was a
followed
big yeet,
quickly
you're not
by
wrong.
the landing burn on our first stage. And the
Yeah, not
second
only
engine
sending
cut
something to
off
the moon,
of
but
this
also
first
not a lot of
burn
payload
will
mass
be in
either.
just about 30
It's only like
seconds at the T plus
2.5
7
tons
minutes
of payload
and
here.
46 seconds.
Falcon 9 could send 16 metric tons into low Earth
Stage 2
orbit.
terminal guidance.
Did booster land correctly? Booster
You can see
hasn't
on your
landed yet.
bottom right, the
Got about another 30
speed
seconds
of
before
the second
landing.
stage accelerating as we are in that burn.
What happened to the feed? They just
Stage
shut it
1
off because
transonic.
there's nothing else to see right now, I guess. Either that or they lost it due to plasma blackout, which, I don't know, they've been doing better about that, so I'm not sure. They just cut it. They've done that before. How much was the rough launch cost for the payload? If I remember correctly, CLPS paid out 75 million.
There's that call out for MVAC shutdown. And we should be getting a confirmation of a good orbit as
Stage
well as
1 landing burn.
There we
there's that
go.
Stage 1
Nominal
landing
parking
burn.
orbit.
Should see the drone ship pop through
And
here
that
any second.
confirmation of a good orbit on stage 2.
Good orbit
Let's
and
watch
insertion.
Stage 1 come back home.
So yeah, 26, they're only in low Earth orbit right now.
Landing leg deploy.
There's the drone ship, short follow gravitas. God, they make it look so easy. Woo! Woo! Oh, chat, it's dancing. It's dancing around the deck. Oh my lord.
There you have it. That was the 413th recovery of the orbital class rocket.
That was dancing
including
around the
first stage
deck.
landings for Falcon 9 and Heavy.
All right, did a little jig.
First stage is back on the drone
Did
ship.
a little dig, a
Beautiful
jig.
mission. Second stage is in the parking orbit in our low Earth
Nice.
orbit. Now the mission does continue in space.
That
with
was sketchy
stage
a little
2.
bit. Oh,
Coming
great
up next,
shot. Look
we
at
have
this.
The second burn of our MVAC
So that
engine.
right there is the
We call that
Astroforge
SES2.
asteroid
And that'll
scout.
be the second
Odin?
stage
No,
burn
not yeah,
around
Odin,
the
right?
T plus 36.5 minute
Ooh.
mark. And we'll follow
Nice.
that with spacecraft separation.
This is
Until then,
inside
we're
of the
gonna send you
Esper
back to
ring,
Tahira and
looking
Josh
up at the
Kennedy
nozzle
Space
for
Center.
Nova C lander. That's cool.
Thank you, John and Yome. If you're just joining us, welcome to the Space Coast of Florida, where we just witnessed live.
Okay, I'm sorry. I want to go back and see that. So yeah, we have Astroforge's Odin there. Stand by. Yeah. So Astroforge's Odin. This is that right there? I think that's the Trailblazer, the Lunar Trailblazer on that far ESPA port. This is the Chimera Geo from Epic Aerospace, and then of course you have the Nova C lander. And if we actually go into what they had here in a second, that view was super cool. So I'm pretty sure this is looking up at the nozzle from Nova C lander. So that's really cool. Look at all that tinfoil, chat. It's wearing his tinfoil hat. Can't wait for this one. Yeah, Jersey. Heck yeah. It's awesome. But I want to see that landing one more time because that was super sketch. You spy a Texas on one of the legs? Yes, that is correct. Watch this. Woo! It is moving around. That is fun. That is so sketchy. Oh, but it did. It was fine. It was fine, Chad. No, not a worry in the world.
The lander's designed to make a lot of autonomous decisions throughout the process.
What was inscribed on the landing leg?
Max
Yeah,
power attitude.
they have a few things. On one of the landing leg feet, they have the mission patches for the payloads, as well as like Nova C and Lunar. Basically the Nova C, the Intuitive Machines motto. And then another one that had a picture of Texas with Houston marked out because that's Intuitive Machines. So yeah.
Payloads, release, and
how long until the transfer burn? I'm not actually sure. We'll have to see if they call it out here.
And Intuitive Machines has 3 of them, including the Lunar Trailblazer, which is managed by NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. It's the only.
Does the second stage do a burn to deorbit? No, it'll basically kick itself into a graveyard orbit because there's no way once it does a lunar transfer orbit that it can deorbit itself. It might do an impact trajectory or just go into helio orbit.
The mission is managed by NASA JPL, and its science investigations and operations are led out of Caltech University.
Nice.
And we're joined now by Dr. Rachel Klima.
Yeah, let's see if they said how long the coast is going to be.
The second burn of our MVAC engine, we call that SES-2. And that'll be the second stage burn around the T plus 36.5 minute mark.
All right, cool. 36 minutes.
And see it go.
So we have another 24 minutes until then.
A little bit about the goal of the Lunar Trailblazer mission?
Sure.
What's a graveyard orbit? Basically an orbit that is specifically designed to hold debris. Like if you look at
surface of the moon, across the entire surface of the moon.
Gosh, what is that?
So we're going back to study the form, the abundance,
there's a
of that water, and to understand whether the water actually migrates across.
Is it astrograph? I can never remember the name of it.
Water cycle.
Yeah, I think it's astrograph, right? And by I'll show.
Sure. So the way that we're doing that.
Yeah, it is this one. Okay, cool. So if you've ever seen this is astrograph. They basically show and track all of the known missions that are currently in orbit, or I guess I should say all trackable systems in orbit. Yeah, look at that. That's crazy, right? So when you are in something like geostationary orbit, which is this outer ring here, that's very, very popular. This is geostationary orbit. A graveyard orbit are essentially these higher orbits here, where you'll notice a lot of other vehicles. Basically, they go into a slightly offset higher orbit in order to make sure they stay out of geostationary orbit. So basically, it's just a orbit that is particularly designed to hold debris, if you will. Oh, we can't see it. Oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot. There we go. Blam. Thank you. Yeah, sorry, we can't see it. Yeah, I got you. So yeah, this is astrograph or astriograph. And this is tracking all of the things that are trackable in space, all of the major missions anyways. And so you can see here, this ring, this orange ring, is geostationary orbit. So there's a lot of slightly higher, I can actually kind of zoom into something here. Some of these are like slightly higher or slightly offset from geostationary orbit. So a graveyard orbit is essentially just an orbit that is designed to hold upper stages for making sure that they don't get in the way of the satellites that are in geostationary orbit. So it's just a specifically designed orbit that just means it's debris, it's junk, and this is the orbit it's going to be in. Geostationary to Earth or the Sun? So it's going into heliocentric orbit, most likely. Yeah, most likely it's going into heliocentric orbit. Yeah, Star-Lord, exactly. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I definitely recommend checking out this website if you guys want. I'll post it in chat. But it literally shows all of the space debris, all of the constellations. Like you can look at US Spacecom constellation, which is pretty cool. So there's all the US Spacecom. Nice. Let's see. They have Planet Labs constellation. Oh, look at that. Little babby Planet Labs. Yeah, so these are all Earth observation payloads. Let's see, what else do they have? Rocket bodies. Yeah, show. Oh, you can show debris here. There we go. So these were all operational missions of some sort, but then you can show the debris. Prepare to lose sight of everything here, chat. Hey, Reaper, how are you doing? Yeah, the Kessler syndrome, yeah. Wasn't it planned to move the ISS into that orbit after retirement? I don't know. I don't know what is technically planned for that, other than what's beyond speculation. Yeah, this is, okay. So if we're looking for like a rocket body, so you can see some of these higher rocket bodies here that are kind of in like graveyard orbits. You can see a few that are near geostationary orbit, like that one. This is an Ariane upper stage. Oh, let's see. Is this still in its transfer orbit? Oh, it is still in its transfer orbit. Look at that. That's cool. But yeah, so graveyard orbit just means it's a designed orbit for the space debris to be in that hopefully doesn't interfere with any other orbits, with any sort of like operational orbits.
To the moon for the first time since Apollo.
Hey Colin, how are you doing?
Ahead of humans, we
yeah, more like the site having to load all of that data was like, nope.
So Clps starts facilitating a lot of the early science, the things we want to learn before we even send humans. Clps stands for Commercial Lunar Payload Services, CLPS.
The services part is the key element. Ordinarily, when NASA delivers a payload to the surface of the moon, they do it with
operational orbits make sense to you? Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. Yeah, what's kind of crazy, right, is anything essentially above like 800 kilometers at the lowest point of its altitude will take like over 100 years to deorbit. So you can imagine geostationary things are never coming down, like ever, unless they get hit by something. They're like always going to stay up there. But yeah, pretty much anything that's beyond like say 800 kilometers at its lowest point is not coming down for like hundreds of years. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
One of the goals when we started Clps was to help establish a lunar economy.
Somebody has to do it first. And then it becomes...
Is there a chance that something like the movie Gravity can happen? No. Unfortunately, I mean, not like that, not for a very, very long time. And definitely never actually like the movie. No. No, it's one of the things I actually like. The movie's kind of cool, like from the CGI perspective and whatnot, but the entire premise just makes it unwatchable for me, just because I know how wrong how wrong that movie is. Like Kessler syndrome is, or the Kessler effect is still very much something to keep in mind. Like we have seen, obviously, the International Space Station has had to do avoidance maneuvers to make sure they remain way outside of certain debris fields, and they are a problem. But the movie Gravity is just like way out there in terms of like what could actually happen. Like first and foremost, there's things in the movie Gravity that just gets orbital dynamics completely incorrect. Like what ghost torque is, you know, carrying George Clooney away from Sandra Bullock in that one scene near the International Space Station. No, absolutely not. the way that the they would have to be in the exact, and I mean exact, same orbit as all of the debris, and you would never have an event like that wouldn't be tracked by NASA beforehand, and it wouldn't take out all of the communication systems. And Tiangong space station is way different from the International Space Station's orbit. It's just so many things wrong with that movie.
Even more science, exploration, and technology payloads, and get more of a return on investment when we get to the moon.
CLPS provides tremendous benefit across the scientific and
yeah, exactly,
So there's a lot we'd like to learn about the moon to help human habitation and prepare us for missions to Mars and beyond.
So the moon is the first step.
Yeah, so like I said before, one of the big objectives for this mission is finding water on the moon.
Administrator for NASA's Science Mission Directorate, and
Because that
Dr. Joel
unlocks a
Kearns,
whole
the
bunch of
Deputy
stuff for us.
Associate Administrator for
For
Exploration.
future missions.
Now, Nikki, Joel, what a launch tonight.
Wasn't it beautiful? I know.
Does it ever get old?
No.
Never.
Absolutely not.
Not really.
Never. No.
Particularly when NASA science is going to the moon on it.
I know, right? It's more than just a launch. Like, think about, again, the future. So to talk a little bit about the future, Nikki, I know you're very passionate about how
redemption
science can
for
enable
Intuitive Machines 1. Yeah, IM-1.
to us about how the investigations and science going up tonight are really going to enable humanity having this long-term presence at the moon.
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
I don't want to get into that, Penta, okay? That movie is infinitely better, though.
Exploration enables science, and that's why we're so excited about having this partnership as we move
Landing
forward.
a space shuttle in the LA River?
NASA
Totally.
Science does great science
Talking about
wherever we
core?
go
Isn't
in the
that what that's from?
universe,
Core?
From the center of the sun to the edge of the universe, we're doing fantastic science. But the really cool
Yeah,
thing
definitely
when
unfortunate.
what we're doing is
Really kind of
enabling
like, how does that
humanity to
happen?
take
Like,
the
I know
next
things
steps.
can happen,
and
but
so
like,
as we return to the moon,
big
we're not
red
just returning to the moon
remove
for a
before
short
flight
trip,
tag.
we're returning to stay,
Supposed to
and
pull
then
it
the
out.
moon lights our way to Mars. And so all of the
I know it
experiments
wasn't that. It was
we
actually
have
a
that we're
switch
putting
or a
on
mode that
Clps
they had to
are
change,
just
but
there to enable us to do the next great
crazy
things
on
for
such a
humanity.
And so,
important
Joel,
system.
as part of Clps, it is really to team up with American companies to help advance the capabilities of the commercial development of the moon.
Got
Can
about
you
another
explain how this
14
CLPS
minutes,
initiative and these
13 minutes
flights
until
are really
we see
advancing what
startup
we
of the
want to
second
do
stage
with
engine.
Artemis?
Well, every one of these CLPS flights, like the IM-2 mission, is advancing
Yeah,
both
Jersey.
science and technology that we will need to move humans out further into the solar system, but also answer
Yeah, so they're talking about the objectives of the Commercial Lunar Payload Services contract. So NASA awarded it Intuitive Machines and other companies like Masten Space Systems, Astrobotics. Funny enough, Masten Space Systems is now an Astrobotics company. Basically contracts for multiple landers. So all in support of carrying payloads and in support of the Artemis missions, again, to find water, to scout out future landing areas for like Artemis 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7, all of those future ones. So yeah, basically CLPS was a really smart way for NASA to really try and get commercial commitment and help in trying to actually spur up a lunar economy, starting first with landing payloads on the lunar surface, which is pretty cool. But yeah, that Intuitive Machines 1, definitely unfortunate. One of the things like you have to ask when that happens is, if you think about, if anybody knows anything about like business and engineering, especially business engineering, there's, a process called Kaizen, which is essentially what Toyota Motors basically forged the way and how to make sure you're always improving your company and making sure everything goes right. It's like the first thing that you're supposed to look for is like, was there a process in place in order to avoid that? And if not, then that definitely needed to be rectified like immediately. And if there was, then why did it still happen? Because you probably need to improve that process, that quality control. But yeah, hopefully that will definitely not be a repeat.
Tonight is not only Intuitive Machines going to land, but Lunar Trailblazer, coordinated science, both of them
4
looking for
payloads on this
volatiles.
mission, chat.
Really fantastic. NASA science doing amazing things all through our universe, from the just everywhere we go. Incredible science. So just really excited to continue to inspire the world and lead the nation in science exploration.
Absolutely. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you.
As part of Clps, Intuitive Machines is continuing to add commercial lunar services. It enables delivery, data transmission, and infrastructure to support the Artemis campaign and the commercial development of the moon.
2024 redefined Intuitive Machines, becoming the first commercial company to land and operate on the surface of the moon.
Houston, Odysseus has found his new home.
And rapidly advancing services for lunar structure.
When we on this Clps initiative and pivoted the company towards the moon, it pushed the boundaries of what could be possible, and so we thought unconventionally.
Last fall, we continued development of our lunar terrain vehicle, the Moon Racer, wrapped up 2024 with NASA astronaut testing at Johnson Space Center, along with a meteor crater trial run in Winslow, Arizona. To support delivering Moon Racer and other several milestones in developing a D.
So what we're able to do with heavier cargo is provide a logistics supply chain to the moon.
And while 2025 starts with another lunar liftoff, development of the first lunar data relay constellation capable of 4K video transmission is underway to support Artemis missions to the moon.
Starting with our third and fourth Clps deliveries, we plan on deploying data relay.
That control room's really cool. I like how it's a circle instead of like the row by row.
Allow for
like a round table, right?
Communication from the surface.
Each mission is building the foundation for a sustainable presence on the moon and a foothold toward the next step into the solar system.
Nice.
We're now going to step aside while we await our next big milestones, the second burn of the second stage of the Falcon 9 rocket, and then separation of Intuitive Machines' lunar lander. We're expecting that to happen about 8 minutes from now, so we'll see you then.
Cool. 8 minutes from now. All right, so we got some time to fill. So like I said, this mission is carrying 4 payloads. Not all of them are going to the moon. In fact, only 2 of the 4 are going to the moon. So that's pretty cool. We of course have the Intuitive Machines Nova C Athena lander, as it's called. That is going to be landing at the southern pole and with a primary objective of detecting water and resources for use in future Artemis missions, especially for landing, right? Because the big objective for NASA is a sustainable presence on the moon. So here you can see just the bottom of the Nova C lander. It's a 2-ton lander, if I recall correctly, carrying like 40 kilograms of payload, if I'm not mistaken, as well, all the way down to the surface of the moon. Some of those, they have 2 rovers that are going to be deployed onto the surface. They have a drill that's going to actually deploy and kind of like swing down underneath the lander, and the drill is going to basically drill through the regolith, basically 3.5 feet down, about a meter. And then it's going to use a spectral imager for basically identifying if there's any ice crystals underneath the soil, underneath the regolith, and other things like that. You can see here a asteroid scouting vehicle, which is actually really cool. So that is also from a commercial company known as Astroforge, and so that's literally in 11 months going to fly by an asteroid and start looking at it to try and detect different metal groups that are a part of that asteroid. And then also, you know, ideally finding either testing the whole process or at least maybe even scouting for a future actual asteroid mining mission, which is really cool. The other 2 missions on board is the NASA Lunar Trailblazer mission. Trailblazer is designed to go into a 100-kilometer polar orbit around the moon, and again from basically orbits looking at identifying any sort of water crystals that might be around the top of the lunar regolith. And then last but not least, we have from Epic Aerospace what's known as an orbital transfer vehicle, or OTV, which is basically a big propulsion module designed to carry different payloads to different orbits. And this particular one is carrying a 16U CubeSat, something roughly the size of a large like desktop computer tower, into a it's actually this one right here, and there's the vehicle on top of it. It's carrying this to a geostationary orbit. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, got a lot of payloads on this one particular mission. Is it only a flyby, or is it an asteroid landing possible? No, only a flyby, as far as I'm aware. Unless they like have secondary objectives that they want to do. Oh, look, chat. Is that lightning that we see flashing in the background? Look at that. I think it might be. Hard to see on the grainy camera, but you see that right there, that little flashing? I'm pretty sure that's lightning on the surface. That's cool. But yeah, as far as I know, it's only a flyby mission. And so this camera here is actually looking inside of the Esper ring. So the entire stack, if I bring up this picture, where's that picture? Yeah, this right here. This picture right here. There we go. So that stack, the entire stack that we saw, so this is the large lander. It's over a story tall. It's 4.5 meters tall. It integrates in what's known as an Esper ring, ESPA. Also a payload attachment fitting, whatever you want to call it. But inside of this big barrel here is the nozzle of the rocket engine for the lander. And so that's what we're actually seeing here on the camera. Not there, not that one, but on the inside, the white nozzle that we saw earlier is the lunar lander's nozzle, which is pretty cool. So yeah, now we just gotta chill. They said that they would be back with a second stage engine start. I think that actually happens at 34 minutes into the flight. I believe that's what they said. So we have about another 3.5 minutes from now. But yeah, it's actually a really cool mission. So here's the great picture of the 16U CubeSat. Like I said, it's like maybe the size of a small mini fridge or like a large desktop computer tower. 16U is about, what is that? Somewhere on the order of like 24 to 30 kilograms. So yeah, you know, kind of heavy, something on the order of like 50 to 60 pounds. But you know, overall, in terms of a satellite, very, very small. It's only like 20 centimeters by 60 centimeters by 20 centimeters. That gives you no, I'm sorry, 20 by 40 by 20. That gives you the 16U, because each U is 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters cubed. So you stack 16 of those into a box, and that gives you the overall standard, which is known as a CubeSat. It's quite literally a standard in the aerospace industry for developing a small spacecraft. So that's really a good way. Basically, those all took off back in 2012. 2012 was when we really saw the first CubeSats start to take off, and now they are the most launched thing. It went from like 2011 and 2012 launching like 2 or 3 CubeSats to, if I recall correctly, like 2024 launching like 800. Like, I mean, I'm exaggerating here, but launching a lot of CubeSats. They are definitely dominating the launch industry right now, just because they're such a great way to develop a fairly small and low cost spacecraft. So why not, right? So why not? And I showed this earlier, but this is what we're looking at in terms of the payloads that will be deployed on the lunar surface. We have the Yoki rover. This is the Japanese commercial company's rover, a very, very small little guy with a camera and basically wheels that are, you know, designed almost like one of those, gosh, I can't remember what they're called. But you know, those things that you see people kind of wheel around on that just have 2 wheels and you go around. It's basically set up in that kind of way for that platform. So just 2 big wheels and a center platform that allows it to rotate underneath it. This is the MAP rover, or the Mobile Autonomous Prospecting Platform. I believe this is the thing that's also going to be communicating with the Nokia Lunar Surface Communication System. So Nokia, quite literally the phone company, has developed a space-qualified 4G LTE system for communications. And then also we have our Hopper. So the Hopper literally has little jets that is going to be able to take off from the side of the Intuitive Machines Nova C lander and literally hop around to different areas around the landing site, scouting for water and other resources. Oh, sounds like we're back.
Welcome to Kennedy Space Center, where we are currently awaiting the second burn of the Falcon 9
Soon, chat.
stage and separation of Intuitive
Map
Machines
is very
lunar
cool, yeah.
lander. This comes after a
It's a tiny little
successful
guy,
liftoff
too.
of the Falcon 9 rocket with the Intuitive Machines lunar lander named Athena at 7:16 and 30 seconds Eastern Time tonight.
And in approximately
Gus
8
Sat
days,
videos? Nice.
Intuitive Machines expects Athena to deliver her cargo to the
Not to my
Mons-Mouton
knowledge,
region
Trey.
of the moon, the southernmost lunar landing attempt in America.
I would say, Trey, that might be like a secondary objective, right? Like primary objective is to scout around during the 7 days that they have in sunlight, detecting water and what have you, and then they'll go dormant, and maybe they'll try to get communications back with them after, but that also depends on the Nova C lander, because the Nova C lander is what directly communicates between the rover and Earth, right? So it goes rover to Nova C to Earth. So if Nova doesn't survive the lunar night, but the rover does, we still won't ever know about it.
Will last just over 60 seconds, and you can watch the velocity increase on the display on your screen.
All right, there we saw a little bit of solid oxygen drifting off. We're actually purging.
If I recall correctly, before the second stage engine start, didn't IM-1 Nova lander, even though it tipped over, didn't it survive the lunar night? I vaguely remember hearing Intuitive Machines saying that they were able to like get some packets from it back after the lunar night, meaning it survived, but maybe that's something else I'm thinking about.
To perform those maneuvers.
What was the falling off the nozzle? So this right here is solid oxygen. This is an oxygen vent, as you can see here.
They're on the right,
and when oxygen expands very quickly in the vacuum of space, it can solidify and quite literally turn into a solid.
Engine chill process
So it's
happening.
solid oxygen. Think of it as oxygen
You can also
ice.
see the payloads on the left-hand side of your screen.
Oh, and there's a nice view. We've got a second payload camera on this flight, and I think we're looking right up at the business end of Athena with the large nozzle.
Yeah, really cool views. I love how Athena looks like a star when it floats away.
Never seen that before? Yeah, it's pretty
Again,
cool.
we are coming
It's
up
more prevalent
on
on these
that
longer
second
duration
engine
missions
startup
when they have a
too
long
in
coast
just
phase.
a few seconds here.
Because that vent is basically
Again,
constantly
this will
running
be
to
about a
manage pressure in the
60-second
engine throughout the system. And yeah, it can just build up, especially if they don't have any other maneuvers for a while. Yep, see? It's quite literally ice, just made up of oxygen.
And back ignition.
It lasted 7 Earth days. Gotcha,
Call out
gotcha.
For MVAC ignition.
All right, so this should take it. Is this going to actually put it into the lunar injection? Or will that be another?
Always cool to see that MVAC nozzle start glowing in the middle of the burn.
Oh, okay, Trey, gotcha. Then I think it may have been another system. I don't remember what.
We're
That
about
said that
30
it did
seconds into our 60
survive.
second planned burn.
Like another
On the second
lander
stage,
or
carrying
I don't know.
Athena and the
Maybe I'm
rideshare
just totally
payloads
misunderstanding
to the
or
moon.
misremembering. It's definitely a long burn. Yeah, 38,000 kilometers an hour. Sounds right.
There is that call out for MVAC shutdown. We've completed that second burn of the second stage.
I'd love to show them the
Waiting on
trajectory.
confirmation of a-
Nominal orbit insertion.
Nominal
There
orbit
is that
insertion, awesome.
confirmation for a good orbit, and it looks like we are on track for spacecraft separation in just a
The
few
slim
minutes.
lander, gotcha.
It's been a great launch so far. Coming up 38 minutes since we had the liftoff. Now
Oh,
we're
that
waiting for
thing. Yeah, I got it.
IM-2 lander
From
to
JAXA.
separate from
Got it, got
Falcon
it.
9 second stage. A little bit of a recap while we're waiting for that. That comes in a little under 6 minutes from now. We had an on-time liftoff shortly before 7:16 p.m. Eastern Standard Time from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center. Everything has proceeded nominally. 2.5 minutes into flight, we got stage separation. We also saw the successful landing of Falcon 9's first stage on our drone ship, a short fall of gravitas, and that made the 9th landing for this first stage.
Nice. And it
Now,
did a little
about
dance
2
for us
plus
after
7
it
minutes,
landed.
46 seconds, we had a successful second stage engine cutoff.
Oh, look at that,
C01,
chat. We're about to come
and
back
we heard
into
the call
sunlight.
out of a good parking orbit insertion. Now that was the first of 2 burns of the second stage engine, and we just saw the second burn of that engine complete, and we also are in a good transfer orbit right now.
Nice.
Pay attention on the bottom right to the altimeter. We didn't change altitude very much during the 1-minute burn, but you can see we're starting to move away from Earth now. Now the vehicle is coasting at this point in time. Payloads are still attached as we're counting down towards the separation of the Athena lander.
I'm not sure, Lillian.
Currently the second stage is in a coast phase, as I mentioned. We are essentially making sure everything is quiescent on the stage. We're venting down pressures. We're making sure that overboard vents are done so that nothing, for example, burps during flight. We want Athena, when we send the separation command from the flight computer, to just be moved away with the power of the springs and not have any jostling if, say, the second stage inadvertently vented something at that time. So we're making sure everything is quiet on the second stage. Now we're coming up, we're under 4 minutes to separation.
Oh, nice. Okay,
and
cool.
We're getting great views of the second stage as it prepares to separate the IM-2 lander to begin its 8-day journey to the moon.
Yep, 8 days. Sweet.
And of course, given the way spacecraft want to be oriented to the sun, for example, to make sure when they separate, you know, they get power onto solar cells. If you're wondering why we have a camera pointed right at the sun, well, that's a requirement of the customer to make sure that the spacecraft gets nice and warm, gets a lot of power, everything looks good.
Nice. That's cool.
And we talked about the 8-day journey to the moon. The Athena lander is carrying science and technology investigations.
So it sounds like the second stage will continue on after the separation
humans to live and work
for the other payloads.
And today's mission is the second Clps mission for intuitive machines.
So this might not even. So it definitely doesn't seem like it's going into an actual insertion.
A little under 3 minutes. Getting some more views. We're cycling.
I don't even think
cycling between the various cameras.
Falcon 9 upper stage can make insertion.
Got a view of the nozzle.
Power tends to help a lot, a little bit.
Heard earlier in the
broadcast,
a little bit. That'll make a large maneuver as they get to the moon. But right now, everything is quiet on the lunar lander. There's a view of the nozzle extension one side. Here's the other camera at the back end of the second stage.
You should just be a few minutes away from deployment.
The silver blanket that you see there, that's multi-layer insulation. We put that
MLI.
over the back end. That keeps all the valves underneath.
Quite literally seven. It can be 7 layers, and it can be
cool.
more than that as well.
Warm from the, the chill.
It can also be like 4 layers, I think, of different materials to help manage thermal temperatures on the inside.
Second stage engine.
So that outside is like mylar for reflecting heat, but then there's other layers for like trying to trap heat or things like that.
Which is very cool. Very cool to see.
A42 should just be deployment here soon. What a shot, though, chat. Oh, that looks so good. Wow. 10 kilometers per second. Yeah, that's pretty crazy, right? Those little flashes are the attitude control system on Falcon 9.
Get deployment of Intuitive Machines 2 lunar lander, named Athena. We had the launch. We got into orbit with the first burn of the engine you see there on the screen. We just finished the second burn about 5 minutes ago.
Nice.
And we are in a coast phase on stage 2. Making sure everything on the stage
so again,
is quiet,
that's the Nova C Lander's propulsion system, the nozzle that we're seeing.
Moving around. And then we'll see deployment. It'll be interesting. I'm not sure which camera views we're going to get at deployment.
We better get the best one, John.
We then start another sequence that takes about 3 minutes and 50 seconds. And then we will get to the rideshare deployments. We'll have one, and then every 20 seconds, and then 20 seconds after that.
Sweet.
Right now we're just counting down, waiting for deployment. So let's listen into the countdown net.
Yeah, it is very small. Doesn't need a lot. Does not need a large combustion chamber. It only needs like a 2-ton thrust. Oh, yes. Nice and stable. Ooh,
There
that's
is
looking
that
good,
deployment.
chat.
You can see IM-2 Nova C lunar lander named Athena floating away from Falcon 9's second
Nice.
stage, confirming spacecraft separation. Now, from all of us here at SpaceX, we are wishing
Oh,
the
look at that.
IM-2 lander a good flight
The
and
second
safe
stage is now
travels.
orienting off of that
SpaceX is
vector
honored
for
to be a
deployment
part
of the others.
NASA's Commercial Lunar Payload Services Initiative to deliver science
Oh,
and
that's so
technology
cool.
to the lunar surface.
You can see the
And we
second
thank
stage
NASA
turn
and the
away.
Intuitive Machines for
Amazing.
entrusting us with today's historic mission to the moon. Now, while we wait for the next development, let's bring in Tahira and Josh back at KSC.
Yeah. So supersonic, that moving away, that push is strictly from the separation ring. So you can actually kind of see it right here, how there's a gap. Before, this clamp was right up against the lip of the payload attachment fitting. Quite literally, it's a gigantic C-clamp, and it's held on by a frangible bolt, so a bolt that actually receives a signal and will shear. And so when that happens, that C-clamp is allowed to, go from like this to this. And then on the inside of that C-clamp is just a big ring on springs that just push it all away. So all that happens like that. Very simple, very, safe system to use. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. Very cool point of view indeed.
Common Raven, let's
The views
tell
on screen.
Scuba to stand by, and let's focus on Singapore and T-Knot.
Yep, on screen you're looking at Intuitive Machines Nova Control on the left, and you're looking at the second stage views on the right with SpaceX here.
Just gorgeous views. Look at
that Earth. Yeah, what I just said.
Absolutely incredible.
That
a lot
is
of
a
things
great
are
view.
happening right now. It's a very dynamic
How many
situation
deploys? Should
where
be
Athena's
4
preparing to
total.
make that first call home.
I think happening every 20 seconds now.
We're counting out the time that
once they start
Athena
deployment.
has separated, and that's because
So that's where that
launch
engine
vehicle
nozzle was.
separation,
This is inside that payload attachment fitting. Here, you can see those springs right there. There's 1, there's 2. They have like 6 or 8 springs all the way around the ring.
1 minute 55 here. Let's go ahead and pause and listen into the loops here as we listen to Intuitive Machines
Gonna
Mission
keep
Control,
active comm. Give us anything you got from the ground station.
as well as SpaceX and Hawthorne waiting for those rideshare deployments. Let's just listen in here.
AD permission back to T-Knot for a second.
Here we go.
There's flight dynamics.
Those calls you just heard are the ground net stations that you're looking at right now inside of Nova Control, waiting for the ground stations on Earth to acquire Athena's.
I saw that jersey,
Standing
yeah.
by in Houston for Athena making that first call home, standing by in SpaceX Hawthorne for waiting for those 3 rides.
Yeah, live stream probably not.
All of these things to be happening.
Typically from the moon, you're using something like S-band telemetry, and S-band, which operates on like the 2.4
Josh, right now, from
gigahertz
Hawthorne,
range, is
we
only
should be about
capable of like
30 seconds away
150
from
kilobits
starting
per
that
second.
sequence of rideshare deploy.
They could be using X-band,
First
but
up
I
should
doubt it.
be
X-band is at the
Astroforge's
5
Odin.
gigahertz range, and
Twice
that can
seconds
get
after that,
that can get up to like 100
Lunar
megs.
And
But
twice seconds after that, Epic's Chimera.
they're landing March 2nd. Yeah, it's pretty fast. They said 8 days. I think they said 8-day ride to the moon. So not March 2nd, right? March 4th? Is that March 4th? Oh, there's one. There goes Astroforge Odin. That's the asteroid mission. There's the Lunar Trailblazer there that we should be able to see pop off too. And then here's the OTV going into geostationary orbit.
Odin deployed, as you heard over the net.
Nice. What a shot. It just went boop.
Lunar Trailblazer.
There's Lunar Trailblazer.
Trailblazer away.
Awesome. I wish we had cameras facing the other directions. And then we should see the OTV happening in about 10 seconds from now.
Out in the acknowledgement, Lunar Trailblazer separated. Wait about another 10 seconds, and it'll be Chimera.
I just said. Oh, there it goes.
We will have an OEM for them. Priority right now.
Awesome. Hey, RJ, how are you doing?
Are separated.
Yeah, how many deploys for? Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking about Firefly
Now,
Blue
Josh
Ghost. I thought you were
Tahira.
talking about Nova C. I'm sorry.
9 second
Yeah,
stage,
yeah.
the
Blue
Senate
Ghost is only
commands,
4 days away,
everything
March 2nd.
successfully
Yeah.
deployed. Now we're waiting
Nova
a
C is
word from
8 days
you all
away.
on acquisition of signal from
So
Athena.
what? March 6th.
Thanks a lot, John. We're still listening in to Intuitive Machines' Nova Control.
IM status, waiting for 1909 for our window to open for visibility on the first station.
That's flight controllers.
1909, so that's in 3 minutes they should get contact from the first ground station.
We're just about inside of that expected window for her to make that first call to you.
What is Blue Ghost? That's the Firefly Alpha lander. That's currently, I put a tweet out on X. They showed some really amazing close-up views. It's in low lunar orbit right now, landing on March 2nd. But it's from the commercial company Firefly.
I'm getting.
Should I enable randomization?
The blue marble? Yeah, no kidding.
We're waiting for visibility at our first ground station to hear. Those are the large radio astronomy dishes on Earth.
Should be 2 minutes until ground station contact. Fingers crossed, chat.
Out in space, what she's doing right now is autonomously commissioning. That's a process where she's turning on her power systems, getting into max power attitude. That's pointing that top deck solar array right at the sun, making sure we're getting good
basically it's performing all of its checkouts, making sure it stabilizes its attitude, starting up only the most critical subsystems first, giving a checkout to those, making sure it connects to the ground station, all that jazz.
So probably here just in the next couple of minutes, Mission Control is just going to be standing by for that.
And then over the course of the next few days, they'll start running tests on all the other systems like the propulsion system.
We're not going to hear that confirmation until that ground station's ready to receive that signal.
About another minute.
What happened? We're expecting 1909 for the visibility. That's correct.
It's 1909. They're talking in Central Time, so that's 8:07 here on the East Coast. So here, just a couple minutes away, flight controllers are watching their screens, waiting to make that first connection with Athena while she's been autonomously commissioning herself in space. That process of getting to max power attitude, getting her radio pairs on, and making that first call home, all while moving just about 24,000 miles per hour.
She's doing a lot.
That's right.
Now, Josh, what happens if Athena exceeds that time window?
Well, if Athena exceeds that time window, it's okay. She's also programmed to swap radios and antenna pairs to get in
She
a
enters
better
the fail-safe mode.
to make first contact with flight controllers.
Get low power, critical subsystems only, point to the ground with your radio,
in Houston, Texas.
and wait. Did the booster land? It did. It did a little jig for us too when it landed. It skipped around a bit. It was kind of sketchy. Probably from the waves on the ocean. All right, we're about 30 seconds.
7 minutes, 25 seconds past that.
Copy that.
That's 7 minutes and 25 seconds since we watched
We are
Athena
halfway
separate.
to trip and fitter.
I understand. We should be getting a call shortly from TNOC to connect.
All right, that's a good call from our activity
T-Naught,
director. That's
basically
John
T0
Graves,
for
waiting
connection.
for our ground station to connect to Athena as we continue to watch.
All right,
video
window
from
should
the
start about
second
now.
stage at SpaceX on the right and
Window's not precise. It all matters about the occlusion and how fast the system can start up. Oh, look at that.
We'll see what time.
Got a
we
payload
have
in the
here.
background there, chat. This is the second stage.
8:08 p.m. Eastern Standard. We're standing
That's
by
probably the
for
large
ground
OTV that we saw.
stations on Earth to receive the signal that we expect. Athena is ready and already making that call back through that autonomous commissioning process. To hear you touched on what happens
Right there.
if we don't make this connection. It's going to be all right.
It's okay.
That actually might even
good.
be the asteroid Odin mission.
And we heard a call from Mission Control talking about a comm fitter being halfway through its cycle. And what they're talking about there to hear, and when we say it'll be okay, it's starting.
Back to me, Goose. Ground out. What are we seeing? Is TNOC giving you any feedback?
We're 1 minute into ground station pass. Still waiting. Yeah, there's an asteroid mission by Astroforge, a commercial company.
When is visibility open for Okinawa?
1:29. All right,
That's
so
in
we're
19
listening
minutes.
into when those ground stations will have coverage to connect with Athena in space.
Oh wait, no, 129. Never mind.
DSS 34.
Because it's
Let's go ahead and toss
1909
it back
right now.
to John and Yome in Hawthorne, California.
In 5 minutes.
We are 9 minutes, 30 seconds.
Is that
past
actually
up.
launching yet? Already deployed. It was on the same mission.
FM
Oh,
comes down
thanks,
15
Josh.
minutes and it just swaps pallets, right?
Now we'll.
No communications yet
We're
on their
hearing
end.
comms in the
Gotcha. Nice, Trey.
background
Thank
right
you.
now.
Yeah, so Odin, the asteroid mission, is in their startup
Now,
and commissioning
for those of you
phase.
following along, you'll know that this mission marks our 24th launch of the year. And we're gearing up for the SpaceX and Punch mission, launching from Vandenberg Space Force Base very soon. And in the coming weeks, NASA's Crew 10 mission to the International Space Station.
You can always follow along at SpaceX.com launches for up-to-date missions and schedules. And before we sign off here at SpaceX, let's go back to Tahira and Josh at Kennedy.
Thanks a lot, John and Yome.
Super Dave. So if you think we can do that and get at least a Farm B up there, that would be great.
All right, Tahir, we have exceeded our nominal acquisition of single timing estimate, and flight controllers are starting that new set of procedures that will continue over the next several
indeed,
minutes.
Jersey.
They're working
Yeah,
to
it's on
confirm
March
our
2nd, right?
communications configuration
March 2nd is going to be a good day.
That the flown trajectory
Hopefully.
we receive from SpaceX matches those expectations.
Absolutely,
and that
RJ,
our
absolutely.
ground station dish is using the right trajectory. That's been a lot of the timing and things that we've heard in chatter right there in mission control.
All right, and we are watching flight controllers in Nova Control right now, working to confirm where Nova sees separated from the launch vehicle, and then matching that data to the ground station's dish that's currently working to acquire the lander
Did I work on the lander? Which lander?
The
This
team's
lander? No.
expected to continue this process for several
No, I haven't
minutes
worked
until
on anything
Athena's
on the moon
autonomous
yet.
procedures start a new process. We've heard them call out a couple
It's just going to be an
times
exciting
how
day to
much
see a
time
commercial
is left
company
until
land on the
comms
surface of the
enter,
moon and
that's
have
part of
the
that process to
Sphere
communicate
X punch
back to
mission
Earth.
happen on the same day too.
Recycling Athena's power systems, switching radios, and swapping antennas to sets that had not been used yet. All at the same time, we're working with SpaceX
Come on,
to
Nova.
confirm a good launch
Squawk.
vehicle separation.
You
That
gotta
means
squawk.
A good translunar orbit. We mentioned that at the
Groundnet, how
top
long
of
would
the
it take
show.
us to configure the DSN data connection?
DSN Deep Space Network. They're communicating through the DSN.
It should be on now.
Okay, Groundnet.
And that's our ground net trying to work the ground stations that are on Earth to make that connection with Athena. But right now, we know that Athena...
Just passing 12 minutes in SEP. We have 4.5 minutes before fitter trips.
Copy, thanks, FM.
We know that...
Got it. 3 minutes. Let's move.
We know that Athena is on a fastball shot toward the moon. That's that translunar orbit. It does give us a lot of flexibility within our flight path.
Sphere X mission and Punch mission are two satellites
And there's
going
some
into
more
sun
calls
synchronous
working with
orbit.
those ground stations, enabling the ground stations to make the calls.
One is to observe the sun, and one is to be an observer of galaxies.
All right.
Indeed, RJ. Indeed.
We're going to continue to monitor progress inside.
And then don't
of
forget
Nova
we have another new
Control.
Glenn mission that's supposed to happen in, what, a month? Is that right? A month? Or is it 2 months? Did they say April or May? I don't remember. Dream Chaser will be launching this year soon. So they're debugging right now, basically. Trying to figure out if it's a
All right, so as
DSN
we continue
issue.
to monitor progress inside
Waiting
of
for Nova
Control,
to
we're
maybe
gonna
switch
pause
over to a different
continue
radio.
listening into what folks are saying inside of Mission Control, but let's just recap what happened leading up to and after liftoff from Launch Complex 39A at NASA's Kennedy Space Center. We saw liftoff to here just around 7:17 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then we
I
saw
know,
a
right,
really
RJ?
good
Yeah,
shot
no doubt.
there.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
DSS 34B.
I believe DSS 34B is another ground station within the Deep Space Network, possibly.
Telemetry active.
All right, are we getting updates?
It said telemetry active. No packets
All right,
yet,
that's a
okay.
keyword there. We're waiting for packets. That means that we're receiving data packets down from Athena. Just about 8.5 minutes after launch, we did see that great booster
14
landing
minutes past that.
on a drone ship. And then
14 minutes past separation?
Just about 36.5 minutes after launch, we saw Athena at
Is
launch
that a
vehicle
massive
separate.
Gantt chart?
What do we need to do to get telemetry packets?
Of all the
Not
events?
sure. We should be seeing them now.
All right, we're standing by for data packets.
Nobody looks panicked, and that's good. I mean, they don't get it now. They can still debug and wait for Nova C to get into its fail-safe mode.
Everyone glued to their screens here. We had launch vehicle separation with Athena just shy of 43 minutes
Not a specific
after
month? Okay.
launch.
Well, spring ends right in
acquisition to signal about
like the end of May,
7
so
minutes. We've exceeded that time. We touched on that autonomous process of what Athena is doing, but right now it's more of a manual process inside of mission control as those flight controllers are working to configure the ground stations that are required to make that call. It's possible that Athena is powered on.
All right, so while TNOC is working, looking for anything we can shake on the DSN side to get packets.
And so, Josh, we've mentioned a few different ground stations tonight. If they get this signal from any of them, does that work?
Yeah, it sounds like they're switching over ground stations as we're listening in. I'm not familiar with which one and where they're working those, but they're working to get that signal.
Yeah, me too,
from
Hellfish.
Athena, and that's coming from
I'm sure
our
they did.
ground net, and you can see folks working inside of mission control trying to solve this problem.
If not, that would be
inside
a huge problem
circular design
in more
control
ways
room,
than one.
allowing folks to kind of wheel around and get the information that they need.
So we're just waiting to hear back. They said waiting for packets.
FM, so we're expecting about a minute for the power cycle, and then another 15. Sitting there looking, same antenna config.
30 seconds to the power cycle is what I got.
Copy. Okay.
All right, as we enter this,
So
start a timer.
As we enter this power cycle, we're going to continue to work that autonomous process with Athena.
We're at 16, 17 is what I'm showing. Is that what we got?
I'm now at 16, 17 right now.
Okay.
Nothing on Odin yet. The asteroid mission. Gotcha.
Granite, give us calls on the main loop. You are the most important person in the room. Everything you're doing is critical. Call it on the loop, everything you see.
All right, as we hit this repowering process, it's going to start several long terms where
Background net, everything goes on the main loop.
it'll give Athena some time to configure her systems if that's what
I know, right,
There's also
Jersey?
going to be some time gaps.
Do we have control in the room?
It's also going to be some time gaps in between when we can configure these ground stations.
Raven. Yep.
It's going to start opening up longer periods of when we're waiting for autonomous processes as well as
data control to make sure they're seeing packets flow to us.
They have carrier lock, sub-carrier lock, symbol lock, but no telemetry.
They have carrier
They have
lock.
no telemetry.
Copy.
Carrier
that's
lock,
a good
if I'm
sign
not
we're hearing
mistaken.
carrier lock. That's one of the steps that we heard on our first
That's
lunar
different.
mission.
Means they basically are connected, but they're not receiving packets.
I need to borrow somebody's phone.
Showing packets.
All right,
I
we're
have
showing
packets.
packets. All right.
There we go.
Oh my goodness.
Everybody wake up.
Got to keep you on your toes, all right? We're going to start
There we
Athena
go.
here, and that is a great
They
call.
have good
That is
comms.
an active situation where we're switching ground stations in order to make contact with Athena. Kept us on our toes. I feel a little flush in the face, but getting those data packets and getting that confirmation from
Again,
mission
it wouldn't have
control,
been the end of
best
the
news I
world
heard
had
all
they
night.
not.
I
It just
didn't
would have
think anything was
been
going to
some
top watch
debugging
that
as to
launch
figure out
the Europe.
why they weren't receiving
So,
packets.
Josh, can we breathe
But they got
easy
it.
now?
We can. It sounds like we have our packets and we're working those challenges. But the important thing is we'll be providing those updates on our page as
Did we
well
just
as
lose packets?
on our X account. As they
Losing
continue
packets?
to work this
Would you stop
challenge.
talking
But
over the
what
ground
an
loop?
action-packed
Okay, we got a
moment, 3
snapshot.
rideshare
Everybody
deployments,
take a look at what you got.
and Athena's first call home to let us know she's ready for her lunar journey. And
Those
we
minutes
continue
feel like
to
hell,
know
yeah,
that
no kidding.
This is a journey filled with challenges, and successfully acquiring Athena's signal and getting those packets and maybe having some more challenges. We know that those are the steps toward getting the ultimate milestone, landing and
Fair
operating
enough,
on the
Lilian.
lunar surface.
Absolutely,
Kira.
Lilian.
I mean, again, like you said, what an action-packed moment. So glad to get that call out.
Is that it?
Now,
Are we not
Josh,
hearing
can
the
you
ground loop
tell us
anymore?
what is next for Athena? You know, can you give us any
No,
details
please.
on
NASA, go
lunar landing?
back. I want to
Well, with
listen to
today's
mission
launch,
control
we expect
more.
Athena to land about 8 days from now on March 6th. After vehicle checkouts tonight, we hope to send Athena's selfies with Earth in the background and capture new images along
Could
her
be
journey.
Hellfish.
Over the first 5 days en route to the moon, she'll perform multiple small
It
engine
was sending
firings
packets.
to hone in
I don't know
her
if I heard
trajectory toward the
losing
moon before
packets or
committing
not.
to
If you can
lunar
confirm
orbit
that yourself.
insertion. That's about an 11-minute burn to slow
'Cause he was
the lander
talking
down
over
to
that,
get
what I
captured into
heard.
lunar orbit. We expect to
So.
send another batch of lunar selfies back to Earth during Athena's
love
few
'em.
days. That's right. And finally, on March 6th, somewhere around lunchtime Eastern, we expect Athena to make a landing attempt, and if all goes to plan, spend about 10 days conducting lunar surface operations.
Well, best of luck, Josh. That's going to wrap up NASA Intuitive Machines
Okay.
and SpaceX coverage
So what did they actually
of the
say there
launch
at the
of
end?
Intuitive Machines.
Expect to send
What did they say there?
to configure her
Copy that.
systems if that's what's required.
On the main loop.
It'll give Athena some time to configure her
Copy that.
systems if that's what's required, but it's
So,
also
I
going to
see
be some
the ground
time
on
gaps.
DSS 34B. Do we have contour in the room?
It's also going to be some time gaps in between when we can configure these ground stations.
Raven. Yep.
It's going to start opening up
Ground that we
longer
need for
periods of
contour.
when we're waiting for autonomous
I
processes
need to
as well
check the
as.
data control to make sure they're seeing packets for us.
They have carrier lock, sub-carrier lock, symbol lock, but no telemetry.
But they have no telemetry.
Copy.
All right, that's a good sign. We're hearing carrier lock. That's one of the steps that we heard on our
Okay.
first
That's
lunar
different.
mission.
I need to borrow somebody's phone.
Showing packets.
Showing
All right, let's
packets?
show packets.
That was
All
good
right.
call.
Oh my goodness.
Everybody wake up.
Everybody link
Got
up.
to keep you on your toes, all right? We're going to start Athena here, and that is a great call. That is an active situation where we're switching ground stations in order to make contact with Athena. Kept us on our
Relaying
toes. I
through
feel
a
a little
Twitch
fly in the
server.
face, but getting those data packets and getting
Yes.
that confirmation from Mission Control. Best news I heard all night. I didn't think anything was going to top watching that launch, Tahira.
So, Josh, can we breathe easy now?
Orange Coronet, can I?
We can. It sounds like we have our packets and we're working those challenges. But the important thing is we'll be providing those updates on our page as
Did we
well
just
as
lose packets?
on our X account.
Yeah.
As they continue
He just
to work
asked, did
this
we just
challenge.
lose
But what
packets?
an
And then
action
somebody
package.
confirmed, yes, keep losing
Screenshot
packets.
deployments.
Take a look at what you got.
And Athena's first call home to let us know she's ready for her lunar journey. And we
So yeah,
continue
that was
to know
the
that this
final
is
call out there, was that they did in fact lose connection, or not connection, lost packets. So the carrier lock essentially means that they were connected to the vehicle. They were connected to, established connection for communications, but then they didn't receive packets. But then they did start receiving packets, but then they stopped receiving packets. So Odin is running on Linux supposedly. That's cool. Yeah, I know that there's a big push in the aerospace industry to start working with easier to use operating systems instead of something, not even like FreeRTOS. FreeRTOS is actually pretty nice as well. But other VxWorks and those like really real-time precise operating systems, or just using like strict no operating system FPGAs and things like that are really low level but really hard to like get into. There's a big push in the aerospace industry to try to work with things that are easier to dev on, low cost, things like that. So that's actually really cool to see that they're doing a deep space mission using Linux. Hell yeah. But anyways, that was pretty cool. If you guys want to see I want to see the landing again, I definitely got to see the landing again. That was crazy. Here we go. Here's the sketchy landing. And skitter around. So good. What a good mission though, chat. Man, let me tell you what.
Minus 30 seconds and counting.
No comms on Odin
systems
yet.
are
Gotcha.
go for launch of Falcon 9 with the Intuitive Machines lunar payload.
Man. Well, that was good, chat. That was good. Hopefully, they got comms, so that means that everything is working, but maybe it's rotating and not stabilized yet, so they lost comms. Not sure. We'll have to see, hopefully hear from Nova, or I should say from Intuitive Machines, on that issue. But what a good mission, chat. So yeah, now, like I said, what happens next is, let me actually see, we can get into it. What happens next on the overall flight system? Something that we should see now is coast phase. Basically now the entire vehicle will go through its autonomous commissioning phase where, you know, not only is it powered on, but it goes through GNC, guidance, navigation, and control, implementation, automated flight management, basically getting into its thermal control cycles, you know, basically powering up all of the systems necessary to actually run the mission, to actually get it to the moon. From there, we should see it go into its engine commissioning maneuver in order to basically have the flight controller verify engine performance. That should happen at some point on its way to the moon as well. Basically, stand by to hear from Intuitive Machines on that. Then they have to do, I believe, 3 trajectory corrections, followed by basically maneuvering into lunar orbit insertion altitude. So they're on their way to the moon right now, right? But they still have to do maneuvers in order to actually get into the trajectory that they want to actually get into. From there, they should then start their descent into their low lunar orbit, into a polar low lunar orbit, before March 6th, right? They said March 6th will be the day where they go into a powered descent. And then finally, during power descent, going through hazard detection and avoidance, and then vertical descent, and then finally landing. Yes, Curb OS. Yeah, got to use that Curb OS. 100% sounds like a plan. Yeah, develop a full operational space mission using Curb OS. Any Lagrange points? I mean, not that they're going to be going to, as far as I understand, no. Just a direct low energy transfer to the moon. From there, landing, they have their lunar rovers that they have to deploy, 2 of them. They have the Grace hopper that they're going to deploy onto the surface as well. And then, yeah, they have what, 7 or 10 days on the lunar surface before night hits. And then that'll probably be it for all payloads as well as Nova C. But yeah, so pretty cool. Definitely got a lot to look forward to here. If you're wondering what the final trajectory is going to look like for the IM-2 mission, we can look at this right here somewhere. Stand by. This one. Nope, not that one. This one. There we go. So this is essentially what they're going to go through here now. They have their autonomous commissioning phase. That's where they are now. They have their maneuver preparation. That's what I said earlier. 3 correction maneuvers to go through. Then they have their maneuver to lunar orbit insertion altitude. Then they have their lunar orbit insertion, and then finally getting into that polar low lunar orbit. And then when it's time to go through their descent, they have their descent orbit insertion. They have their terrain relative navigation. Essentially what that means is that they have camera systems and LiDARs on multiple axes on the vehicle. And those are constantly basically looking at the surface of the moon. And it has a database of like pictures and features that it tries to match each frame of an image that comes through that system to try and understand where they are. And so basically they use that. I think it was that system that wasn't working before, right? That with the coupled with the laser altimeter. But they're going to be using relative terrain navigation to start mapping features and understand basically where it is relative to where it wants to land. Then they go through powered descent initiation, pitch over with the main engine, and basically constant rate of descent. And then during this time, they will do hazard detection and avoidance. Again, this is using the terrain relative navigation to see if there's any rocks, any craters, any divots, or any unsafe landing areas beneath them. And then they can kind of like maneuver left, right, forward, back to try and get away into a safe landing position. Then they enter their terminal descent before landing. So still got quite a lot of maneuvers and things to do before they actually land on the surface of the moon, but it should be good. Is KerbOS a mod? It's a mod. I never heard of it being used for anything other than Kerbal. It's Kerbal operating system. So I don't do low-level programming in Linux. I just use it to program very little additions to game involving hyperbolic geometry. Oh, that's cool. But yeah, so that's that's what we got to in store for us, chat, in the near future. Basically 8 days from now. That's cool.
Falcon 9, but we'll still be moving very rapidly. And that's going to cause the vehicle to fly through the Merlin exhaust
So let's see.
gases.
We already
It's also known
saw
as the
the
rocket's
landing here.
core.
We'll cut back to that. This is the
Slowing
entry
that
burn.
first stage.
For the entry burn, chat, also known as
And that in
supersonic
turn drives down the
retropropulsion,
cost.
quite literally, the vehicle turns on its engines not only to help slow it down, but that exhaust helps push all of the very, very hot plasma away from the vehicle. So even though it goes through its own flame, it's actually much safer to do than just riding the plasma wake. In terms of survivability, which is pretty cool.
Entry burn startup.
So yeah, we have the engine burn. So you'll see now it's starting as like a perfect circle almost. That is because the vehicle goes through center engine start to 2 outboard engine start and then back to center engine only. So it goes 1, 3, 1 in terms of the engine sequence. So right now only the center engine is burning, and then you'll see it transfer into the 2 outboard engines, and then it'll basically be a kind of like a more oval shaped plume.
FTS is saved.
And there's the oval shaped plume, so that's 3 engines ignited, the 2 outboard and the center. And then you'll see it shut down the outboard engines, basically going back to a perfect circle. That's a single engine center burn happening right about, I forgot how long this burn was. There's the center engine only and then shut down. Yep, 1, 3, 1.
You can see the end of that entry burn on the first stage. And on your right, you can see the second stage.
And then it goes all the way to landing.
Confirmation of a good orbit on stage 2.
Still no official
Let's
update on
watch
Flight
stage
8
1
nor
come
Odin.
back
Gotcha,
on.
okay. HSR is coming off B-15. Hot staging ring is coming off B-15. They're about to disconnect power to it. Seems we may get a delay to Monday for Starship Flight 8. Gotcha. Well, thanks for the update. Yeah, I'll have to track that. There you see that slightly scary landing on the Falcon 9 as it kind of does a little jig bouncing around as it lands, but no problems there. And then we got some fantastic views of the payload.
After we hear from Athena.
Again, that picture that we saw there is looking at the actual engine inside of the payload attachment fitting of the Nova C lander. So this is its primary maneuvering system and landing engine. And then we also got to see the other picture with the other payloads, wherever it switches to that. So these are the 4 payloads on this flight, 2 of them going to the moon, 1 of them going to geostationary, and 1 of them going into deep space to an asteroid. So Nova C, as you can see with the landing legs at the very top here, that's going to land on the surface of the moon. It has on board a lot of really cool payloads that we've already talked about. We have the Odin vehicle here that is specifically designed to go to an asteroid as a scouting mission for Astroforge, a commercial company. As Trey in YouTube chat said, the actual commercial company is, I think, streaming. They're still streaming their commissioning phase, and they haven't heard contact with it yet. But this vehicle, Odin, is going to go to an asteroid and do a flyby, and it should do that in about 11 months from now, so that's pretty cool. 1 rocket, 4 missions. Yes, exactly. You also have this big thing here. This is known as an OTV, or Orbital Transfer Vehicle, and that's developed by Epic Aerospace. Epic Aerospace actually has a few of these vehicles that it has designed, and it's already done 1 mission called Chimera Leo. This is the 2nd mission, Chimera Geo, for a larger geostationary mission. And basically, it is just designed to carry this satellite on top to its intended geostationary orbit. And then last but not least, we have the NASA JPL ESA Lunar Trailblazer mission. You can just see it right here on the other side of the ESPA ring. It is a pretty small, like 16U CubeSat style of satellite, if I'm not mistaken. That is basically going into a low lunar polar orbit in order to, from orbit, start looking for ice using its onboard sensors to try and find water deposits and stuff, either right below the surface layer of the regolith or in craters and things like that. So the overall mission, like objective for Intuitive Machines lander and the Lunar Trailblazer, is to find water. find ice crystals on the surface of the moon. So that's pretty cool. We then went forward here and saw them talk all about the future of what they want to do with the Intuitive Machines lander and all the payloads on board. I think they talked about the actual payloads themselves. So they have the hopper, known as Grace. Grace is basically, quite literally, like I said, a hopper. It has small jets that are designed to fire. It also looks like it has the Ingenuity helicopter's landing legs, 4 of them. And so it's designed to use those jets to kind of make it hop around to different areas around the landing site. From there, it also has 2 rovers that we showed off earlier. Let's see here. We talked about IM-1, went all the way through, and we should be able to get to payload deployment here. And that's second stage engine. Let's just get to deploy. Yeah, here we go. Fantastic deployment. Yes.
Warm from the, the chill of,
I saw a tweet from someone working in Canberra DSN saying they had good connection for IM-2 now. Nice. Excellent, AA. Thanks for the update.
Second stage engine.
Yeah, so we did hear that Intuitive Machines did, in fact, get connection, establish connection to their Nova C Athena lander, but then they lost connection. But if you're saying that they now have stable connection, that is fantastic. They have connection, but no data downlink. So they did get data downlink, but only for a short time. And then they lost packets. But yes, they did have connection, but they were still waiting for the packets. So you're right. There is a difference between connection and getting actual data. So that's, yeah, it's a good call. But they did get data for a brief moment. Negative 120
Just
decibels.
to give you an idea of where we've been, where we're
That seems
going,
low.
in about 1 minute, we are going to get deployment of Intuitive Machines 2 lunar lander, named Athena. We had the launch. We got into
suppose we
orbit
can.
with the first burn of the engine. You see.
Here, 1 second. I guess we can do this, right? NASA DSN, Deep Space Network, Deep Space Network. We should be able to see it here, right? Where can you see the list of all of them? News, NASA Plus, DSN Now. That's what I want. Go to DSN Now. Wait, what? There we go. IM-2, there you go. So they're on 34 in Canberra. Yeah, so that's what they were calling out earlier, DSS 34. That's what they were talking about. Oh, and they just lost connection. Inverse square law for loudness, that's true. NASA's eyes. Wait, what are you saying? What is this for? 3D visualization. Oh, this thing. I got you. Yeah. I see. So it looks like IM-2 is now out, I guess, in its seclusion zone, not able to communicate with IM-2 again. Either that or it finished what it wanted to do. Let's see. That is not... Oh, no, I want this one. Oh, well, maybe not. It seems like it's still high in the sky. No signals. Okay. That is not that. Oh, gotcha. Here you go. So you're talking about eyes for doing this. Yeah, cool. Yes, and now. Yeah, gotcha. Thank you. No official word on Odin. However, the control room is becoming more active. Okay. Well, I hope that they can get good commissioning here, because I know it sucks for your very first mission, right? There's a lot of tweaks and stuff to like figure out and whatnot. They have carrier lock on Odin, no communications back and forth. Where is, here, stand by, chat. Let's see. YouTubes. Let's see, Astro Forge. I misspelled. Because you said they were streaming it on YouTube? Is that right? Or no? Aha! Okay.
if you recall correctly, 2022 OB5 is by far the smallest asteroid visited. Yes, it is very small. Is there any special consideration?
Let's see. So this is one of the payloads that was on board, chat. This is the one that was designed to go to an asteroid.
No, we actually don't
Dude,
consider the size.
this is awesome.
Of the asteroid.
What a great, what a great shot.
Very late.
Astroforge, hell yeah.
This is because any
What the heck? Please, yeah. Let's give Astroforge some follows. This is fantastic.
So this is what we could get to. This is what we have tracked.
That's a cool dashboard. Yeah, no kidding.
All this tells us is
So separation at 1740. That was 5:40 Pacific time.
And just so people are aware, the launch date can slip for a number of reasons, none of which are actually.
So let's see. 9:40
Think of it, we're launching on a SpaceX
is Canberra. Canberra, right? Is that what I'm seeing correctly? So that should be. Oh no, that's the time. Okay, I see. That's time across all time zones. Gotcha. I was thinking that they were talking about the DSN network. KSP screenshot. What if I gave you my Saturn IV 4 shuttle engines in the first stage instead of Mastodons? What if you did?
That kind of forces us to stay on our toes.
Where did you send it? In Discord? I'll have to check that in a little bit. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out, RJ.
How close will it fly by? It will be within a mile on the flyby.
Wow, awesome. Dude, Astroforge is really cool.
What sort of tests were done on the probe before launch, especially after the failures of the previous satellite buses? We have undergone vibe test, as is required by SpaceX. If you're
Nice, Trey. That's really cool. Yeah, definitely give them a follow then, chat. They want to do a 24/7 live stream of this mission of theirs, going to an asteroid.
That was what had failed on the previous bus, and it was a great success.
IM-2, Blue Ghost, and Hakata 2. Yep, that's correct, Toaster.
Turnaround. We also had undergone a TVAC test, cycling the bus through every temperature that we will see in space, alongside of being inside of a vacuum chamber.
Just for those unaware, TVAC stands for Thermal Vacuum Chamber Test. So it's pretty much put in a
TVAC.
box and you're able to
Oh, IM-2 is getting downlink. I wonder if they're
make it super hot on one end and super cold on the other end. And that's kind of to be able to mimic the temperatures that you're going to see in space.
Outside of that, a lot of our tests are done on a flat sat. So we have a lot of the instruments and the avionics on a table.
Good evening. Hey, Captain Failure, how are you?
And
So yeah, this is Astroforge. This is the mission that just launched on that rideshare mission to lunar orbit. This is going to an asteroid. So Astroforge is a small startup company. Well, I say small. They're not actually that small. They have already a good amount of funding. But they are a startup company.
What fuel ox combo are you using? I will get back to you on that. They are not cryogenic.
No, they're hypergolic, I'm sure. I wonder if they're using a green hypergol or if they're just using standard hydrazine.
Speed will it fly by the asteroid at? I will get back to you on that as well. Will there be a stream for the flyby? No, we do not have the data rate to do streams of these flybys. We get images and it takes a while.
IM-2 does seem to be getting a down signal.
We have very
1.256 kilobits per second. Using S-band. Yep, that's what I said. Yeah, very low power. Fine.
Okay, we're going to head back downstairs to hopefully get another update from our team, and we'll be back once we know more.
Okay, well, we chill for a second here, chat. So we have Astroforge. We're waiting for them to get commissioning phase done. They're waiting to get packets on their side. It's now been, what, like 20 minutes, maybe more, since actual deployment here. And so now we sit and we wait. Is S-band good or bad? I mean, S-band is standard. S-band is kind of the standard go-to. It's a fairly low frequency. It's low data rate, but low frequency, but usually pretty reliable. You know, the lower frequency means it can go farther and it can penetrate, you know, different potential blockades, whether that's atmospheric effects and things like that. but it's low transmission rate, like maximum of 150 kilobits per second. So right now they're getting 1.2 kilobits per second. So if you need something higher, like if you're trying to stream like pictures or video or things like that, you typically want something like X band, which is on the order of 5 to 8 gigahertz. And that can get upwards of like 100 megabits per second, even more.
Satellite built after the bus failed vibe check.
So, to answer two other questions that came up.
1.256 kilobits per second seems reasonable. Yeah, it just depends on like what messages they're sending, right?
After we realized our first bus failed vibe checks. It initially failed vibe checks, I want to say in mid-March of 2024, and on April 1st, 2024 was when we made the decision to move forward, redesigning the entire spacecraft in-house. So it was really a monumental effort for
Nice.
the entire team to go from
Yeah,
nothing to
that's pretty insane to go from 10 months.
we are hoping to be able to get pictures of the flyby. One of the main objectives of this mission is to actually get a high quality photo of an
That's because they're using AOL Messenger.
Yeah, and these cameras,
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. For those of you who don't know, typically, now they probably had to work it out with SpaceX, and they probably, I guess, could, but typically SpaceX needs delivery of your system having already passed all of its environmental quality checks, like 3 months before your mission. So if they had 10 months before the missions, that means they only had 7 months to go through complete redesign, rebuild, and requalification. Like, that's actually pretty insane. Especially if they were not bringing all of that in-house originally and were going with some contractor and then had to bring all of that in-house. That's actually wild. What's up, Lava Eagle? How are you doing? So yeah, that's pretty crazy to hear. Because if they were launching, yeah, so that would have been, oh, like you said, May. So they had 10 months until delivery, I suppose. But still, 10 months to go through a complete redesign is pretty wild. What's up, Dead? How are you doing? So yeah, right now we're waiting for the updates on 2 of the spacecraft that deployed on this mission. We are listening in on a mission control loop for the Odin spacecraft. Odin is the spacecraft that I believe deployed first out of the 4 on the Falcon 9, and it's the one that's going to an asteroid for a asteroid flyby. So it's a commercial company, and they're live streaming it here. And then we're watching the DSN, the Deep Space Network now, for updates on IM-2, because IM-2, as we know, the Intuitive Machines mission, they were not receiving good packets for a while. They did receive a few packets for a short time, and then they said they lost packets. But we're now looking at Deep Space Network now for updates on whether or not they're getting telemetry. So, but yeah, we can listen back in.
This is an optional
So this is Astroforge. They're a commercial company.
maneuver that will happen. This is because there is a potential that we don't have to boost going around it. We may just be able to fly by and slingshot to space. However, if we need to, we will thrust.
How many missions are we expecting before extracting anything? So this is our second mission now. It's doing a flyby.
They want to do asteroid mining.
Third mission, Vestry, is projected to land on a target asteroid. It'll either be the same one or a different one, depending on the results we get back from this mission. And then our 4th mission is going to be the first one that does a full launch.
4th mission.
And refine, return.
Gotta boost the audio
Are there
here.
specific high-value metals that we're looking for? Yes, there are. We're going after a specific subgroup of rare earth elements known as the platinum group metals, or PGMs. It's 6 elements, most notably platinum, but also includes palladium, rhodesium, ruthenium, osmium, and iridium. Excuse me if I'm butchering any of those names. They're not exactly the
Why is New
easiest elements
Horizon
to
not shown? I'm
pronounce.
not sure.
Is 2022 OB5 a solid object or a rubble pile? That is what we are trying to find out. There has not been a lot of data on what these metallic asteroids look like. We could get there and it could be a solid object, or it could be a rubble pile. We're going to collect as much data as we can from these images and design our future buses based off of that.
I mean, I would imagine that it's not connected to New Horizon just
Could
because
you have access to telemetry page?
they're talking with other things right now.
We are trying to keep data off of there right now. Any link that we would have to it would only make it slower.
Is Voyager 1? Yeah, it should be. Voyager 1. 24.90 billion kilometers. Round trip light time, 1.92 days. Isn't that wild, chat?
We will get back to you with any question that has not been answered.
160 bytes per second.
Here on the floor.
We're going to go ahead and step away for a minute while we try to get an update from our team, and we will circle back.
Probably not live video, Brady. No, I would not think we would get live video of that. Live video is pretty difficult to do when you're not in like low Earth orbit. Because remember, you're all the way out at the moon, and unfortunately, as cool as it is for the public view for space missions that are focused on science, it's not really a thing. So if we do get a video from it, I would think we would just get pictures from it, if anything. But if we do get video, it would be way after the fact. It wouldn't be live. So yeah, like I said, we're looking at two things here. First is DSN now, because we are looking at an update for IM-2, or Intuitive Machines Mission 2 that just launched. We just, we left them in uncertain areas on if they've established good communications with their lander. So they're getting downlink, it seems, so that's good. Yep. And then we have up here another payload that launched on that last Falcon 9 mission called Odin, the Odin spacecraft, and it's going to an asteroid, and it should be there in about 11 months. It's going to do a flyby, and this is for a up-and-coming asteroid mining startup that is sending this mission. They're a commercial customer here, which is pretty cool. One of the things I wanted to see here is if I go to X, and let's see if we can't follow Intuitive Machines here real quick. Intuitive Machines. There we go. That way we can keep up to date with them if any updates happen. That was an hour ago, 2 hours ago. So nothing yet. Okay, so no updates from them yet. So hopefully we'll get something. I guess DSN needs to be expanded, or deep space Starlink transmitter satellites. Yeah, something like that would be definitely something that needs to happen at some point. Either expanding DSN. What's actually interesting is commercial companies. Oh gosh, what is their name? Atlas Ground Stations. Atlas Ground Stations. Atlas Space Operations. Yeah, the Federated Ground Network. They're a commercial entity that's actually looking to beef up their communications array for lunar systems. I don't know how far along they have done it, but they provide S-band, X-band, Ka-band, UHF, right? All these different, LEO, MEO, GEO. I'm pretty sure they have plans on scaling up to provide lunar communications as well. So yeah, that's not deep space, but we might not have to use deep space for lunar missions, right? So that the deep space network for lunar missions, which would actually be really good. So yeah, they're one. Another one I believe is Leaf Space Ground Stations. I think they also want to expand their systems to be able to be operated for lunar orbit as well, or for lunar communications. It's just a lot, it's just a lot to do to set everything up for that and to get qualified for that and whatnot. But yeah, there's certainly commercial entities that can be leveraged for that, right? Is what I'm trying to say, to help mitigate the use of DSN for that sort of thing. Didn't the Apollo astronauts have live video from the moon, or were they videos? I believe they did have live video. Yeah. Like I said, it's not something that can't be done. It's just whether or not they have it set up for that when they might want to be sending other things. Yeah, I believe they had. Did they have live video, or were those just videos? I actually don't know. I think they had live videos in the later ones. I know they had live communications between the moon to NASA, NASA to the president, right? Like Apollo 11 had live comms on that, but I don't know when the first live video was from. It's a good question. Atlas has a really nice API for integration testing. Yeah, Atlas is what my company would have probably gone with for our first mission. Light days is a distance. Yes, that is very true. But it's also a time for like one single amount of data round trip, right? It can be both depending on the context. Since radio frequency waves propagate at the speed of light. Number 11 was live. I mean, I know the communications were, but was the video? I'm not, maybe they were. I can't remember exactly. Yeah, I guess they were live, showing them stepping off the ladder, right? Yeah, so like I said, it's not something that can't be done. It's just whether or not they have it set up to do. Yeah, oh yeah, it was definitely broadcast on TV, but again, like how much of a delay, if any? If it was all live, then awesome. But they also had a large phased array antenna for that as well. Off-topic question, would using an ablative ring-shaped piece in the divergent part of the nozzle provide variable expansion ratio to improve performance? Something similar to how SSME nozzle lip was slightly bent inwards to prevent flow sep, but making it ablative for continuous variable expansion ratio. The fact that much smarter people than me have not implemented that. What do you mean they haven't implemented that? You're talking about nozzle inserts. Nozzle insert, ablative. I believe Russia has actually flown experiments on that. But yeah, it's definitely a thing. It's definitely been investigated. I want to say Russia did it. I think it's just called a nozzle insert, because I don't think it's what a plug nozzle is, right? Plug nozzle rocket. Yeah, no, it's not that. It's like a truncated air spike. Yeah, ablative nozzle insert rocket engine, Russia. I believe it was Russia that did it. They did some kind of investigation into it. That literally they used wood. They used wood, and the wood would burn away, which would give you basically good atmosphere, you know, supposedly good atmosphere, and then once it burned away, good vacuum. I don't remember where I've seen that or where I've read that. But yeah, anyways, just to let you know, it is a thing and it has been investigated. I just... it hasn't become popular because typically it's not needed. It's only needed if you're actually going to develop some kind of SSTO, you know, an engine that would do well at sea level and in vacuum. And usually it's not warranted to carry that extra mass and whatnot. Yeah, I don't remember where I saw it. But it is definitely a thing. Let's see. Wood nozzle insert rocket engine. I swear it's a thing. I just don't remember where I have read it. Stand by. I'll find the reference that talked about it. As we continue. Yep, we're still listening in on that ground loop. I'll turn on some music too. We're not just listening to mouth breathing. Number 11 was live. Quick Google search said they were. Cool. Yep. So, yeah, I know, right? The Soviet Union definitely had some really interesting different concepts for spaceflight. Standing by to stand by. Good. So, yeah, standing by. So we will probably have some live video of Artemis missions potentially. I would hope so. I mean, we already have had live streams from Artemis, right? Because they had live streaming of Artemis going through all the different things from the Orion spacecraft. So if they did this, I don't know where that would be, if it would be on YouTube or whatnot. Let's see, NASA, Orion, Artemis 1. Yeah, see, we've already gotten live stream. CBS, stop it. I just want to see. Yeah.
Scientists had
So they've already given us live streams of the Orion capsule and whatnot. So yeah, I'm sure we'll get live streams of that sort of thing. But yes, we were looking at. I can find. I think I know exactly which book it's in that I referenced that. I just gotta find it. Sure. Do you think we will have Artemis 3 landing live some of the moonwalks? I sure as heck hope so. I mean, they better, right? Like, I feel like NASA needs to step up their PR game across the board, so I certainly hope so. 100% I hope so. Now, let's see. I think it's under texts. There it is. Go there. All right. Now I just gotta find the right text, wherever it might be. Yeah, since we're waiting for updates from Astroforge and whatnot, and from IM-2, because we haven't had anything, right, from IM-2 yet? Check IM-2 updates here. Nope, still 2 hours ago. That's all posts. Any replies? No. So nothing from Intuitive Machines yet. Dun, dun, dun. I know I have it. It's just a matter of finding it. Guidance, navigation, and control. Heat mass transfer. RTOS. Small sat design. Introduction to systems theory. ISO 9001. ICAD, LaTeX, Python, manufacturing. I swear. I wish I could see on my Dropbox like the title pages. I know exactly what the book looks like. Modeling, modern spacecraft guidance, modern engineering. Is it this one? Nope, that's Husel Hong. Great book, by the way, Husel Hong, if you're interested in designing bipropellant rocket engines. Onboard computers. Dang it. Probably never find it like this. Rocket space technology, is this it? No. No way, it's this one. No. Not that one. Rocket propulsion elements, great book, but that's not the one I'm looking for. Small satellite design, space robotics, space vehicle design, space mission engineering, that's SMAD. Spacecraft propulsion, that's brown. I don't believe I'm looking for that one. Dang it. Well, I'll have to find it and share it some other time. David Deutsch. Yep, no such luck. But yes, anyways, to go back to your question, yes, nozzle inserts have very much been a thing investigated before for basically putting ablative nozzles into your rocket engine to change how they operate. They cut off the stream quickly, makes you wonder. Yeah. I don't know why they had to cut it off so soon. It was a NASA stream though, and technically now, I mean, I guess the stream was over, but yeah, I kind of wish they had kept going. Haven't heard lock the doors call. Yeah, I don't think they would do that. They wouldn't do that on anything like this. Not for spacecraft. That's typically for, like, you know, missiles, as in rocket launches and stuff. The new SMAD, yeah. I mean, I'm honestly waiting for the new SMAD. I mean, it's been what, 12, 13, maybe 14 years since new SMAD came out. New SMAD has like one tiny little blip, like half of a chapter dedicated to CubeSats. I think it's actually only one section dedicated to CubeSats. And now CubeSats are the most popular spacecraft style, if you will, or category launch to date. So like new SMAD is horribly outdated, unfortunately, because the aerospace industry has quite literally changed massively. It's both changed so much in the last decade, and it also hasn't changed that much in the last decade. But one thing it definitely doesn't have is any like CubeSat understandings. Confirmation Trailblazer and IM-2 are looking good from one of the staff at Canberra. Awesome. Well, that's good. Like I said, we're still checking it out here. They're still getting 1.256 kilobits per second, according to this, unless it's been updated in any way. Still, yeah. I mean, they're getting the down signal, so that's nothing but good stuff. We're just gonna need a whole book list. I want to read them all. I know, right? I have a whole bookshelf. I have a whole bookshelf and a whole Dropbox library. I'll have to list and disperse it if y'all are interested. What's the ETA for touchdown? I believe March 4th for this mission and March 2nd for Blue Ghost. Because don't forget, chat, yeah, we can show this while I'm here if we haven't gotten an update from Intuitive Machines. Move that off to the side. Yep, nothing here yet. But Firefly posted that right there, which is pretty insane. Look at that. Look at that, chat. So this is the Blue Ghost lander, launched by Firefly. Or I should say operated by Firefly, and it is in low lunar orbit right now. Look at those views. Look at those views. So this will be landing in 4 days. 4 days from now. Should be March 2nd at some point. March 2nd at like, what, 1:20 a.m. if I'm not mistaken? I could be mistaken on that. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, this is pretty awesome. Yeah, that's the lunar surface in all of her glory. Up, doing some maneuvers. On Friday, that's true. That's right, Brady. I know. I'm stoked for Blue Ghost. I think yeah. If you guys don't know anything about Blue Ghost and Firefly, they quite literally kind of like bought the rights to, if you will. I mean, not literally, but they actually bought some of the IP that was used on the Bereshit lander that the Israeli space agency tried to put on the moon, right? And it landed a little bit too hard, but it did get all the way through descent. It just unfortunately landed too hard because I think one of its thrusters failed, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. But they actually quite literally purchased engineering time with their engineers and like some of their IP, so they're starting from a really good place. So I really have high hopes that the Blue Ghost lander can land on their first try. That'd be amazing. Looked funky for a second. Yeah, it definitely does. How live do you think this is? How live is this? Not live at all. No, I wouldn't think this would be live at all. But yeah, I do hope we get some kind of video like this on a successful touchdown. I don't know, like we might get video depending on how the stars align for Blue Ghost. Like I don't know what kind of communication systems they have on board in order to be able to do any sort of live streaming, or if they would even want to, right? Because this is their first mission, and typically first missions, they want all of the engineering data, and engineering data, probably the thousands upon thousands of data streams that they're tracking, take precedence. So I would be a little shocked if we do get a live stream of pictures like this, or a video like this. We might get like pictures every now and then. Similar to the Indian Space Agency's landing attempt last year, the year before last. We'll see. Yeah, Kazla, I'm not sure exactly, but what is it deploying? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's a radiator. Because like it does, I was thinking, you know, it could be a solar panel at first, but it wouldn't be a solar panel looking like that, which looks like foil. But it's very clearly on like a hinge. So I don't know if Mylar multi-layer insulation is like around an antenna and it's an antenna tracking something, or if that's like a radiator or what. I'm not exactly sure. But it's very, very thin. It's not a solar array, but it's clearly something that is in fact on a hinge here. So I'm not sure. I'd have to look at a picture of it, I guess, from the ground to see what that might be. One light second. Is it 1 light second? I was actually thinking it was like a couple, but yeah, regardless. Like I said, it's not that it can't be done. It's just whether or not they have the equipment on board to do it, and the ground stations to do it. Because typically to get like video like this live, you would have to use something like X-band. But typically that means you have to use a different ground station link from your S-band link. And then if you're going to be operating both your S-band for telemetry and your X-band for video, then that can be many, many watts of power. Or like you can have a X-band transmitter that requires like 50 watts of power on a system that can only produce 150 watts of power. So if that's your X-band, and then your S-band transmitter is generating like 20 watts of power, and then you have all of your onboard communication systems, or all your avionics, all of your attitude control systems, right, are running like that, you can very quickly go power negative. You might already be power negative without using both communication channels, right? So it's kind of like all of those things that have to be balanced. So again, like it's not like it can't be done. It's just whether or not the vehicle is set up to be able to do that in the first place. 1.285 light seconds. Thank you. Yeah. Nope. Okay. Trying to see if we're getting any information from Intuitive Machines. I'd love just a quick update from them would be most excellent. Nothing in their replies. Nope. Astroforge is over here. Haven't heard anything from them in a hot second. They're still debugging, I guess. I don't see any updates here. What is this talking to? This is talking to LTB. It's doing X-band. Still getting IM-2 data, I guess. Yep, still getting IM-2 data. Still at 1.256 kilobits. Is there tracking of ISM-2? Tracking in terms of what? Because we do have apparently connection in Canberra in Australia through DSN network, but tracking on like, is there knowledge? Don't stir your oxygen tanks. Yeah, 100% don't stir them. Oh, looks like we're dropping frames at the moment. Sorry about that, chat. What is going on? Why are you dropping frames? Oh, there it goes, stabilized. If it all goes boom, you want the data first. 100% fast, yeah. Video can just be transferred later if it survives. Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Like, can live streaming happen? Yeah. Yeah, it's certainly not insurmountable. Apollo did it, right? Of course, Apollo typically had larger phased array antennas than something like this might have, but yeah, regardless, it's not that it can't be done. It's just balancing all of your vehicle resources and objectives properly. I imagine they would use something like CFDP for the video. CFDP, file data protocol. What is compressed? No, what is CFDP? CFDP. CCSD, file delivery protocol. Yeah, CCSDS. For the video and only get a few bytes of it each ground station pass. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, they would probably use like compression and all that sort of stuff. So dropped oxygen tanks on the other hand and then stirring them, yeah, that can be bad. Also, not changing your interfaces correctly for the right amount of voltage and current, that's another big problem, right? Yeah, Apollo 13 happened for multiple reasons, quite literally a cascading failure. Yeah, not only was the oxygen tank dropped, damaging some of the heater that was on the inside, but we also, once it was dropped, which kind of crimped one of the blow-by valves, they then, when they wanted to decompress it after testing it, and it wasn't actually decompressing, they then had the bright idea of heating up the inside of the tank, heating up the oxygen to force it out. That's a great idea. But then they also had their test equipment set to, I don't know, let's say the test equipment was set to 100 volts, but the interface change on the oxygen tank should have accepted no more than, say, 32 volts. So they not only over voltaged the heater on the inside of the tank, which then damaged the insulation on the wires after dropping it. It was a mess. Yeah, file transfer protocol, file delivery protocol, yeah. It's very low speed, even for simple data and telemetry. It seems like this website was not updated for a while. Yeah, I'm wondering about that too as well, Marcel. It is, to my knowledge, supposed to be live. Like, IM-2 is no longer transmitting anymore, right? But I don't know how live, right? Like, there could, of course, be a delay. But it did stop. So they're no longer communicating with IM-2 right now. Wait, what? Yeah, if you don't know, yeah, Apollo 13 failed for multiple reasons. They dropped the oxygen tank, which damaged the relief valve, which they used to drain liquid oxygen from it after testing. And so in order to make sure that the oxygen did drain after testing, they decided to use the inside heater to heat up the oxygen to kind of increase the pressure to force it out of the now damaged relief valve. But when they did that, I can't remember if it was the oxygen tank that changed, but the ground equipment didn't, or if the ground equipment changed, but the oxygen tank didn't. Anyways, there was a miscommunication that never got changed after the redesign that occurred in 65 of the lander, where they basically changed the voltage lines in Apollo to be, like I said, let's say they were originally designed to be 100 volts and they changed to 32 volts. So they passed through the heater valve or passed through the heater system like 100 volts when it should have only accepted 32 volts. And then that basically overheated the entire system, damaged the wiring insulation, and then that was then installed into Apollo 13. So that way, everything was fine. But then when they tried to stir the tanks, that exposed insulation, that exposed wiring clicked on. And yeah, blew the valves, or blew the oxygen tanks. So you need to learn more about 13 now. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's, yeah, like, oops. Did the control room establish comms yet? Not to my knowledge. Oh, we have IM-2 connection again, downlinking. Still says downlinking at 1.256. Now again, this doesn't necessarily mean that is the highest possible data rate that they can achieve. They might just be in a very, very low transmit state, kind of like a failsafe, if you will, to like get minimum packets. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, hopefully we'll get an update here saying either good or saying that they're debugging. Like, I would even just like to know that they're debugging an issue, working a problem. Like, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world. They're clearly communicating. It's just whether or not they are in a good standing or not in a good standing. Same with Odin, with Astroforge, right? This is the Astroforge that we're looking at here. This is the other commercial company, or I should say another commercial company that launched. This is the Asteroid mission. They have a live stream going on of their mission control, and I think they are having issues as well. I don't think they've established communications yet, so we're kind of just waiting to hear. Let me actually see, does Astroforge have, actually, you know what, let's just go to another tab real quick. Any replies? So no updates from Astroforge yet. Aww. How cute is that? Apex Space sent them a cake. If you guys don't know, Apex is a very fast up and coming satellite provider that has, I think, currently the fastest fully developed from the ground spacecraft. They basically developed a full spacecraft in like 12 months and launched it successfully. They just recently got a massive DoD, Department of Defense contract for that capability. You know, surprise, surprise. So they sent them a cake, apparently. That's cool. Astroforge link. This is their live stream. So we sit and we wait, chat. We might even kick over into Kerbal Space Program and leave them on in the background to see if we get any updates. A literal cake, yeah. It's a piece of cake, you know? It's a piece of cake. Oh, there's their spacecraft. Look at that. Look at that thing. Nice. So there's your communications. So that's 4 phased array. So that's your S-band antenna. That looks like X-band. S-band is usually a single circular patch antenna. This looks like X-band. Endurosat. Endurosat products. I'm not saying that this is an Endurosat product, but they actually make and show their communication systems, and they are usually kind of like a good, I want their products. Oh gosh, I hate websites that are like this, chat. You have to just keep scrolling through everything. Is it not in, I want their products page. Is it in satellite? Ah, communication, there we go. So they have a K-band transmitter. No, that's the transmitter. I want the actual antenna. Front end, transmitter, UHF. Ah, there we go, patch antenna. X-band. So yeah, there's an X-band 2x2. Go to a 4x4, and this is just them. So it might even be K-band since they're going so far. There's your S-band antenna. S-band antenna wideband. That's cool. And that's your UHF. So yeah, it's definitely 2 communication channels there. Could be X-band and S-band here. That's another communication, or that's your transmitter maybe. And that's another one there as well. So yeah, they have multiple communication channels to go through. Infinite scroll is not user-friendly. It's totally not. Like, I hate this. Like, you go to their homepage, right? And you, oh wait, it wasn't their homepage, sorry. If you go to their space services page, and it's like, okay, I want to find, okay, I hate that. A button shows after you scroll for a second. Like, it's cool, but I just hate having to scroll all the way down to find the thing I want. My goodness gracious. I think ABL Space Systems used to do that. Home of ABL. Do they still have it, or did they change? They changed! Oh my gosh, thank you. ABL used to be like that, where they would actually go through like this entire map layout here, side by side, every time you scrolled. Oh my gosh. It was so annoying. Oh. Did ABL change? Oh, there we go. Okay, just took a second to load. I was about to say, did ABL change their website? Because they used to be able to go through their facilities. But yeah. Anyways. Sorry, just venting here, chat. I like how they use CubeSat solar arrays for this. These are CubeSat solar arrays. There's your reaction wheels, by the way. So you have 2 reaction wheels here. They might have 2 on the other side, or they could have 2 underneath them as well. Because typically you have 4, 1 for redundancy and 1 for all the attitude control. That looks to be your transmitter, or maybe even, yeah, probably a transmitter box. S-band, that could also be S-band, X-band. Yeah, all the different communication channels, your engines. But yeah, I like how they use, these are quite literally CubeSat-sized solar arrays, because why not? CubeSats are super cheap, or cheap in terms of aerospace industry, I should say. So that's cool. So any updates from them? Nope, no updates from them. No updates from them. Fair enough. So reactive, much wow. Yeah, no kidding, right? Yeah, they're still doing stuff here, chat. They're still doing stuff. Doesn't look like they have any communications. So they're still standing by. They are 1 hour and 22 minutes into launch, or into separation, I should say. Yeah, mission elapsed time 1 hour and 22 minutes. So we'll see. Hopefully Astroforge and Intuitive Machines gets it figured out. Yeah, exactly, Shock. If you have to control F to find something on a page, they have failed. Exactly right. Yeah, it all happens, Brady. I mean, because think about it. This is quite literally systems of systems engineering, right? Not only are you designing a system, but you're designing a system of systems. Everything all the way down to the component level has to be checked and verified. And, you know, you probably don't develop everything in-house, so you outsource certain things, and then you have to make sure that those outsourced materials are up to your standards and requirements. It's a huge pain. Like, this is literally rocket science here. It is one of the most complicated things to engineer and get right. So yeah. Yeah, no hands on head or no hands on face, you know, that's usually a telltale sign of bad things. I think they're just kind of waiting to see. Because it doesn't seem like, if this is live, this control interface here, it doesn't seem like they're getting comms, but it also doesn't seem like they're necessarily worried about it right now, so that's good. Why do they put RCS at like a 45-degree angle? Because at a 45-degree angle, you can technically get multiple degrees of freedom with one RCS thruster. Right? If they were just pointing straight down, then you can only use them to move in one direction. But if they're canted at a 45-degree angle, then you have them, you basically have them having components of thrust in multiple axes, which means that you can now use fewer RCS to get the same amount of actuation. And it could also be to like avoid any sort of plume expansion on sensitive equipment like the solar arrays and things like that. It could also be to align it with the center of mass. It kind of depends on how exactly it's integrated. Are you talking about Astroforge here? How they have RCS or what? Can't really see it very well here on any of them, but yeah. Yeah, it could just be a number of reasons, actually. Making sure it fires through the center of mass, making sure it has multiple axes actuated under one system. Yeah. There's a guy checking LinkedIn for jobs on his phone. You stop that right now, Deadscum. But yeah, I think we might leave it here, chat. We are a couple 3 hours into stream. What do we do? Do we just wait here and see, or do we fire up some Kerbal Space Program and play that for an hour? I'm not sure. What do we do, chat? What do we do? Tell me. What do you want? No, you just got here? So you just want more of this? Oh, he's getting ready to go home. They're about to say bye. Do they have to have people watching it 24/7 until landing? Yeah, they will. KSP need more automated landings. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, we can kick it over into Kerbal Space Programs. Certainly. Always super interesting. My pleasure. My pleasure. KSP is always fun to watch. Yes, indeed. So I might do that. So here's what's going to happen, chat. On the Twitch side, I am going to. There we go. On the Twitch side, you don't have to do anything. You're not going anywhere. You're good. Maybe I'll throw an ad your way while we're in between things, so we get rid of all the Twitch injected ads. But on the YouTube side, I'm going to end the stream here, and then I'm going to start up a new one with Kerbal Space Program. I think that's what we're going to do. So YouTube, really appreciate you guys hanging out and watching the launch coverage. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully I could explain certain things that you might not otherwise think about. Yeah, I think we're going to end the stream on YouTube and fire up another one. And then on the Twitch side, I'm going to probably play a short ad break as I switch everything over as well, so we get rid of all of the Twitch injected ads, and then we'll fire up some Kerbal Space Program, which I will do right now, so it's loading in the background. I've been doing automated landings, but the real cool stuff is when you make a pork chop graph. Oh, maybe